Derek Thornton's Italian leather shoe connected with Amara Williams's 7-month pregnant belly with a sickening thud that echoed through the first-class cabin. The force sent her stumbling backward into her seat arms, instinctively wrapping around her unborn child as a sharp gasp tore from her throat. Around them, passengers froze mid-motion, overhead bins, hanging open carry-ons, suspended in air conversations dying on lips. "Should have moved when I told you welfare, Queen," Derek sneered, his face twisted with contempt as he adjusted his Confederate flag lapel pin. Amara's hand went to her badge, hidden beneath her cardigan. But before she could speak, a warm wetness spread down her thighs. Blood. She looked up at the man who'd just kicked her, then down at the crimson staining her jeans, and Derek's smug expression finally cracked into something resembling fear. Before we continue with what happens next, if you're enjoying this story of courage and justice, hit that subscribe button and stay until the end. You won't believe where this goes. And comment below with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's get back to Amara. The pain came in waves, starting as a dull ache and building into something that made Amara's vision blur at the edges. She gripped the armrest with one hand, the other still cradling her belly, feeling for movement, any movement from her daughter. The baby had been kicking all morning, restless, as Amara herself, but now there was only stillness. "Ma'am." The flight attendant appeared at her side, a young Asian woman whose name tag read Jessica Chen. Her eyes widened as she took in the blood. "Oh my God, we need to—" "I'm fine," Amara said through gritted teeth, but even as the words left her mouth, another contraction seized her abdomen. Not fine. Nowhere close to fine. Derek had already settled into seat 3B, her window seat that he'd demanded, the one she'd paid extra for, because after 8 months undercover with white supremacists, she'd earned the right to watch the sunrise from 30,000 feet. He was studying his phone now, deliberately ignoring the chaos he'd created, but his hands trembled slightly as he scrolled. "Sir," Jessica said, her voice tight with barely contained fury, "you need to come with me, now." "I didn't do anything," Derek said without looking up. "She was in my seat. I was trying to get past her, and she got in the way. Not my fault she's clumsy." The lie was so casual, so practiced, that Amara almost admired its audacity. Almost. But she'd spent the last 8 months listening to men like Derek lie about their beliefs, their actions, their intentions. She knew every variation, every tell. "I have it on camera," said a voice from row 4. A teenager with purple hair held up her phone screen facing Derek. "You kicked her. On purpose. I got the whole thing." Derek's face flushed deep red, the color creeping up from his collar like a tide of rage. "You little—" "That's enough," Amara said, and despite the pain, her voice carried the weight of 15 years in federal law enforcement. She reached into her carry-on with shaking hands and pulled out her credentials, flipping them open. "Derek Thornton, I'm Special Agent Amara Williams, FBI. You just assaulted a federal officer and endangered the life of her unborn child. You're under arrest." The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Derek stared at the badge, then at Amara, then at the badge again. His mouth opened and closed twice before any sound came out. "You're lying. You're just trying to—" "Lying." Amara pulled herself to standing, one hand still pressed against her belly. The pain was constant now, a steady drumbeat of agony, but she'd been trained to work through worse. "You want to bet your freedom on that, because assault on a federal agent carries a mandatory minimum of 5 years. Assault on a pregnant federal agent." She let the question hang. "That's a conversation you'll be having with a judge." Jessica's radio crackled. "Flight 445, this is Captain Morrison. What's the situation back there?" The flight attendant's hands shook as she brought the radio to her lips. "Captain, we have a medical emergency and a potential federal incident. Passenger in 3A is pregnant and bleeding after being assaulted by passenger in 3B. The victim is identifying herself as FBI." "Static, then." "Copy that. Keep them separated. I'm contacting ground control for medical and law enforcement response on arrival. And Jessica, nobody leaves those seats until we land." Derek lunged forward suddenly, his hand shooting out toward Amara's credentials. She moved on instinct, years of training overriding the pain as she caught his wrist and twisted, forcing him back into his seat with a controlled violence that made several passengers gasp. "Don't," she said softly, her face inches from his. "Don't give me a reason to add resisting arrest to your charges." "Get your hands off me!" Derek's voice had gone shrill. "This is assault. Everyone's seeing this." "Everyone's seeing you attack a pregnant woman," said an elderly white woman from across the aisle. She was small, bird-like, with silver hair cut short and sharp blue eyes that reminded Amara of her grandmother. "And then try to destroy evidence. I'm a witness too, Agent Williams. Retired Judge Helen Frost, 7th Circuit. Whatever you need from me, you have it." Amara felt something loosen in her chest. Not the pain that was getting worse, but the isolation she'd felt since Derek's shoe had made contact. She wasn't alone. She had witnesses. She had allies. "Thank you, Your Honor." She managed releasing Derek's wrist and stepping back. The movement sent another wave of pain through her stronger this time, and she had to grip the seat back to stay upright. Jessica was there immediately, her hand on Amara's elbow. "Please sit down. You're bleeding more." "I can't sit," Amara said. "We haven't taken off yet. I need to secure the suspect before—" "I'll help with that," Judge Frost said, unbuckling her seatbelt with surprising agility for someone who had to be in her 70s. She moved into the aisle, positioning herself between Derek and the cockpit. "Mr. Thornton, I suggest you remain exactly where you are. I may be retired, but I still have friends at the Bureau, and I promise you they'll be very interested in why you kicked a pregnant FBI agent." Derek's eyes darted around the cabin like a trapped animal. Amara recognized that look, panic mixed with calculation. She'd seen it on suspects who were weighing their options, trying to decide whether to comply or escalate. Her hand moved instinctively to her hip, where her service weapon usually sat, but she'd checked it with her luggage per airline regulations. Stupid. After 8 months undercover, she'd gotten careless, too eager to get home to her sister in Miami to her doctor's appointments to the nursery that still needed painting. "Is there a doctor on board?" Jessica was saying into her radio. "We need medical assistance immediately." "I'm a nurse," called a woman from coach class already pushing her way forward. She was black, middle-aged, with kind eyes that took in the situation with practiced assessment. "Let me through." The cabin had erupted into chaos, passengers standing to see what was happening. Phones out and recording conversations overlapping into a dull roar of speculation and concern. Through it all, Derek sat frozen in 3B, his face cycling through expressions so rapidly Amara could barely track them. Fear, anger, defiance, calculation. "Everyone sit down," Captain Morrison's voice boomed over the intercom. "I need every passenger seated immediately. We are not taking off until the situation is resolved." The nurse reached Amara's side, her hands already moving to check vitals. "I'm Sandra. How far along are you?" 30 weeks, Amara said, and heard her own voice waver for the first time. "She was moving this morning, but I haven't felt her since he kicked you." Sandra finished, her mouth set in a grim line. She pressed her fingers against Amara's wrist, counting heartbeats. "Your pulse is elevated, and you're showing signs of shock. We need to get you off this plane and to a hospital immediately." "Not until he's in custody," Amara said. "Agent Williams, not until he's secured." Amara locked eyes with Sandra, willing her to understand. "I've spent 8 months infiltrating a domestic terrorism cell. 8 months pretending to be someone I'm not, listening to them plan attacks, watching them recruit vulnerable kids into their hate. I was 3 days from testifying at trial when this flight was scheduled. If Derek Thornton is connected to that cell, and I'm betting he is given that Confederate pin, and the way he targeted me specifically, then he can't be allowed to walk off this plane and disappear." Derek's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a real estate developer. I don't have anything to do with the Patriot Brotherhood," Amara said, watching his reaction. Bingo. His eyes widened fractionally before he could control it. "You're going to tell me you've never heard of them, never attended one of their rallies, never donated to their legal defense fund?" "I want a lawyer," Derek said. "You'll get one after we land and you're formally charged." Amara turned to Jessica. "Is there any way to restrain him? Zip ties anything." Jessica glanced toward the cockpit nervously. "We have restraints for unruly passengers, but I need the captain's authorization to—" "You have it," Morrison's voice came through the intercom. "Jessica, secure the suspect in seat 3B. Agent Williams, we're diverting to Atlanta instead of Miami. Shorter flight, better medical facilities, and I have a buddy in the Atlanta FBI field office who can meet us on the tarmac." Relief and frustration warred in Amara's chest. Atlanta meant an hour and a half instead of 3 hours in the air. Atlanta meant a level 1 trauma center with a NICU. But Atlanta also meant being 650 miles from her sister, from her doctor, from the support system she'd carefully built for exactly this moment. Sandra was guiding her back to her seat. 3A, the window seat, Derek had demanded. "Sit, now. You're in no condition to be standing." Amara obeyed, her legs suddenly boneless beneath her. The moment she sat, another contraction hit harder than before, and she couldn't suppress the cry that escaped her lips. Through the haze of pain, she watched Jessica and a male flight attendant. His name tag read, "Marcus Rivera. Secure Derek's wrists with plastic restraints pulling them tighter than strictly necessary." "That hurts," Derek complained. "Funny," Marcus said flatly. "So does getting kicked in the stomach when you're 7 months pregnant. Weird how that works." Judge Frost settled back into her seat across the aisle, but Amara noticed she kept her eyes fixed on Derek, alert and watchful. The old woman had positioned herself strategically close enough to intervene if needed, but not so close as to be an immediate target if Derek decided to do something stupid. Sandra was pressing something soft against Amara's abdomen, checking the bleeding. "It's slowing," she said, but her tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced it was good news. "But you're definitely in premature labor. These contractions are getting regular." "Can you stop it?" Amara asked. "Not at 30,000 feet with no equipment." Sandra's hands were gentle, but her words were brutal in their honesty. "We need to get you to a hospital where they can administer tocolytic steroids for the baby's lungs monitoring. If we can delay delivery by even a few days, that makes a huge difference for a 30-week preemie." 30 weeks. 10 weeks early. Amara had done the research, knew the statistics, 90% survival rate at 30 weeks, but that meant a 10% chance her daughter wouldn't make it. 10% chance that Derek Thornton's hate would kill her child before she even took her first breath. "We're starting our taxi to the runway," Captain Morrison announced. "Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff." Jessica touched Amara's shoulder. "I'll be right back after we're airborne. Anything you need, you press this call button." Amara nodded, not trusting her voice. The plane began to move, the familiar rumble of engines building as they rolled toward the runway. She pressed her hand against the window, watching the terminal fall away, and tried to feel her daughter move. Anything, just one kick, nothing. "Talk to her," Sandra said from the aisle seat she'd moved there without asking, clearly planning to monitor Amara for the entire flight. "Babies can hear you. Let her know you're here." Amara felt ridiculous, but she placed both hands on her belly and leaned down her forehead, nearly touching her knees, despite the pain it caused. "Hey, baby girl," she whispered. "It's Mama. I know things are scary right now, but I need you to hold on. Just hold on a little longer. We're going to get you somewhere safe, somewhere they can help you, but I need you to fight okay. You come from a long line of fighters. Your great-grandmother marched with Dr. King. Your grandmother was the first black woman to make partner at her law firm. And your mama doesn't give up. Ever. So you don't either." A flutter. Faint, barely there, but movement. Amara's breath caught in her throat. "Did you feel that?" Sandra asked, watching Amara's face. "She moved," Amara said, and suddenly she was crying, hot tears streaming down her face as relief and terror and pain all collided at once. "She's okay. She's still okay." Across the aisle, Judge Frost had her eyes closed, but Amara saw her lips moving in what might have been prayer. Behind them, Derek sat in rigid silence, his face turned toward the window, jaw clenched so tight Amara could see the muscle jumping. The plane accelerated down the runway, that familiar surge of power, as the engines screamed and gravity pressed them back into their seats. Amara gripped the armrests, focusing on her breathing the way she'd learned in Lamaze class. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. They lifted off. For a moment, suspended between earth and sky, Amara felt weightless. Then the plane banked slightly, and her stomach lurched, sending a fresh wave of nausea through her. Sandra was ready with a bag, but Amara shook her head. She'd been undercover in dive bars and meth labs for 8 months. She could handle a little turbulence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Morrison. We've reached our cruising altitude of 31,000 feet. I want to thank you all for your patience during the delay. As you may have gathered, we've had an incident that required us to change our flight plan. We'll be landing in Atlanta in approximately 90 minutes. For those of you with connecting flights or final destinations in Miami, the airline will make arrangements to get you where you need to go. In the meantime, our crew will be coming through the cabin. If anyone needs anything, please don't hesitate to ask. 90 minutes. Amara closed her eyes and tried to count the seconds, but another contraction hit at 42, stealing her breath and her focus. They were coming closer together now. She didn't need Sandra's concerned expression to know that was bad. "Tell me about your daughter," Sandra said clearly, trying to distract her. "What are you naming her?" "Zara," Amara said when she could speak again. "After my grandmother. She raised me after my parents died in a car accident. I was 8. "She'd be proud of you," Sandra said. "What you do? Going undercover to stop terrorists." "I don't know about that." Amara shifted in her seat, trying to find a position that didn't make everything hurt. She used to say the FBI was just the government's way of keeping black folks in line. She lived through COINTELPRO, remember? She watched the Bureau spy on civil rights leaders, plant evidence, destroy movements from the inside. And yet you joined anyway. "Because of her," Amara said. "She taught me that the way to change broken systems isn't to tear them down from the outside, it's to get inside and rebuild them piece by piece. She died my first year at Quantico. Never got to see me graduate." Sandra's hand found Amara's squeezing gently. "She sees you now." A commotion erupted from the back of the plane, raised voices, someone shouting. Amara tried to turn in her seat to see what was happening, but the movement sent a sharp, stabbing pain through her abdomen that made her gasp. "Stay still," Sandra ordered. Marcus appeared in the aisle, his face flushed. "Agent Williams, we have a situation. There's another passenger who's insisting on being moved away from a Middle Eastern man. She's causing a scene and some of the other passengers are getting agitated." Of course, because this day wasn't already a nightmare. "What do you need from me?" Amara asked. "Nothing. You need to rest. I just wanted you to know in case things get loud back there." "What seat is she in?" Marcus hesitated. 32B. Amara closed her eyes. Economy, where she should have been sitting if she hadn't splurged on first class as a celebration for closing the case. 8 months of motel rooms and cheap takeout, pretending to be a waitress who'd fallen on hard times and was looking for somewhere to belong. 8 months of listening to men like Derek spew their hate while she secretly recorded every word. She'd earned first class. And if she'd been in 32B instead of 3A, she wouldn't have crossed paths with Derek Thornton. Her daughter would be safe. "Handle it," Amara said. "Do what you need to do. If it escalates, Captain Morrison has my credentials number. He can call the Atlanta field office, and they'll have agents waiting to deal with it on landing." Marcus nodded and disappeared back toward Coach. The plane hit a patch of turbulence, bouncing violently, and Amara gripped her armrests as her stomach lurched. Sandra was there, immediately checking her pulse, her color. "Another contraction?" Sandra asked. "Just turbulence," Amara said, but even as the words left her mouth, her uterus clenched again, harder this time, and she couldn't stop the whimper that escaped. "That's 5 minutes since the last one," Sandra said, checking her watch. "They're getting closer." "How much closer before it's too late to stop?" Amara asked. Sandra's silence was answer enough. In seat 3B, Derek finally spoke. His voice was low, meant only for Amara, but in the quiet of first class it carried. "You think you're so righteous, playing hero, but you're just as bad as we are." Amara didn't respond, didn't give him the satisfaction. "You people are always playing the victim," Derek continued, gaining confidence from her silence. always blaming others for your problems. You're pregnant at 30, let me guess, no husband. Just another black woman having a baby she can't afford, expecting taxpayers to foot the bill. Mr. Thornton, Judge Frost said sharply, I strongly suggest you stop talking. Why? Because I'm telling the truth. Derek twisted in his seat to look at the judge, his restraints clinking. You know I'm right. You've seen it in your courtroom, I bet. These people, they come in with their sob stories expecting special treatment just because... Amara turned to look at him. Just looked. She didn't say a word, didn't change her expression, just locked eyes with him and let him see exactly who he was dealing with. The same stare she'd used on hardened gang members during interrogations. The same stare that had made a human trafficker confess to crimes he'd sworn he'd never committed. Derek's words died in his throat. My husband, Amara said quietly, each word precise as a scalpel, was killed in action in Afghanistan 3 years ago. He was a Marine. He saved his entire unit when their convoy was ambushed, stayed behind to provide cover fire while they evacuated. He was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross for his actions. This baby... She placed her hand on her belly. She was conceived through IVF before he deployed because we both knew there was a chance he wouldn't come home and we wanted to have a family anyway. So you're right about one thing, there's no husband. But there damn sure was a hero. The lie came so easily it scared her. There was no dead husband, no hero Marine. Amara had never been married. The baby had been the result of a brief relationship with a colleague that ended badly. But Derek didn't need to know that. Nobody on this plane needed to know that. And the look on Derek's face, the shame, the confusion, the sudden realization that maybe, possibly, he'd made a terrible mistake, made the lie worth it. I didn't, Derek started. You didn't know, Amara finished. You didn't ask. You just assumed, just like you assumed I didn't belong in first class, just like you assumed I was lying about being FBI. You know what happens when you assume, Mr. Thornton? You assault pregnant federal agents and destroy your entire life. Judge Frost made a small sound that might have been approval. Another contraction hit this one, strong enough that Amara couldn't hide it. She doubled over with a cry that brought Jessica running from the galley. How far apart? Jessica asked Sandra. 4 minutes, maybe less. We need to prepare for delivery, Jessica said, just in case. No, Amara gasped. It's too early. She's too small. We have to prepare, Jessica said firmly. Captain Morrison is already coordinating with Atlanta. They'll have an ambulance on the tarmac and a direct route to Grady Memorial. They have one of the best NICUs in the Southeast. But if we can't make it that long, we need to be ready. Sandra was already moving gathering supplies from the first aid kit. Judge Frost unbuckled and came to kneel beside Amara's seat. Look at me, the old woman said, and her voice had a quality that demanded obedience. I had 3 children, all of them premature. The youngest was born at 29 weeks smaller than your daughter will be. He's 45 now, a pediatrician in Seattle with 4 kids of his own. Medicine has come so far since then. Your daughter has every chance. I can't do this, Amara said, and hated how small her voice sounded. I'm not ready. I haven't finished the nursery. I don't have the car seat installed. I was supposed to have 10 more weeks to... You're ready, Judge Frost interrupted. You went undercover with white supremacists for 8 months while pregnant. You just survived an assault and made an arrest while in premature labor. You're the definition of ready. Now breathe. Amara breathed. The plane seemed to have gotten quieter, or maybe it was just that her focus had narrowed to this moment, this breath, this contraction. She was aware of Sandra preparing supplies in the galley, of Jessica speaking quietly into her radio, of Derek silent now in 3B, his face turned toward the window, of Judge Frost's cool hand on her forehead steadying. Tell me about the case, Judge Frost said. The one you've been working. It might help to focus on something else. The Patriot Brotherhood, Amara said, grateful for the distraction. White supremacist organization, about 3,000 members across 15 states. They started as a militia group in the 90s, training in the woods, stockpiling weapons. But in the last 5 years, they've gotten more sophisticated, more organized. They've infiltrated local police departments, school boards, even some state legislatures. And you infiltrated them. I played a role, Amara said. Diane Sawyer, a waitress from a small town in Kentucky. Lost my job, lost my apartment looking for community. They target people like that, vulnerable, isolated, angry. They offer belonging, purpose, family. How did you stand it? Judge Frost asked, listening to their hate. I thought about my daughter, Amara said. The contraction was passing, leaving her exhausted and shaky. About the world I want her to grow up in. A world where she doesn't have to pretend to be someone else just to feel safe. Where she doesn't have to wonder if the person next to her on a plane is going to hurt her because of the color of her skin. From 3B. Derek made a sound, not quite a sob, not quite a gasp. When Amara glanced over, she saw tears on his cheeks. My daughter died, he said suddenly. 10 years ago. She was born at 28 weeks. She lived for 3 days. The cabin seemed to hold its breath. Her name was Emma, Derek continued, his voice breaking. My wife and I tried for years to have a baby. Years of treatments and disappointments and hope that kept getting crushed. And then finally, she got pregnant. But something went wrong. The doctors said Emma's lungs weren't developed enough. We watched her struggle to breathe for 3 days. 3 days of machines and alarms and watching our baby girl suffer. And then she was gone. Amara didn't want to feel sympathy for him, didn't want to see him as human, but she'd been trained to understand motivation, to see the person beneath the crime. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it. My wife left me 6 months later, Derek said. She blamed me, said my genes were the problem, that Emma's weak lungs were my fault. I started drinking, lost my job, lost my house. And then I found them, the Brotherhood. They told me it wasn't my fault. They told me it was the government's fault, the hospital's fault, immigrants taking resources from real Americans. They gave me someone to blame. They gave you permission to hate, Judge Frost said. Yes, Derek said simply, and I took it, because it was easier than hating myself. Another contraction, stronger, longer. Amara cried out despite herself, her hands gripping the armrest so hard her knuckles went white. Sandra was there checking her, and when she pulled her hand back, there was fresh blood on her gloves. We need to deliver this baby, Sandra said. Now. We're still 30 minutes from Atlanta, Jessica said, her voice tight with panic. Then we deliver her here, Sandra said. Agent Williams, I need you to listen to me. Can you do that? Amara nodded, though she wasn't sure she could do anything except scream. Your water just broke. You're fully dilated. When the next contraction comes, you're going to need to push. I can't, Amara said. It's too soon. She's too small. She's coming whether you're ready or not, Sandra said. So we're going to do this together. You, me, Jessica, and Judge Frost. We're going to bring Zara into this world, and then we're going to get her to the hospital where they can help her. But right now, I need you to trust me. I don't have a choice, Amara said. No, Sandra agreed. You don't. The next contraction hit like a freight train. Hey, viewers, I need to pause here for just a second. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering what happens to Amara and baby Zara, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next part. And seriously, drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story reaches. Now let's get back to this delivery, because things are about to get even more intense. Amara pushed. She'd been trained to handle pain, had taken courses on resistance to interrogation techniques, had broken her arm during a takedown, and continued pursuing the suspect. But this was different. This was pain with purpose. Pain that was bringing her daughter into the world 10 weeks before she was supposed to arrive. Good, Sandra was saying. That's good. Take a breath. Another contraction is coming. Judge Frost had moved to Amara's other side, holding her hand, murmuring encouragement. Jessica had strung up a sheet for privacy, though most of the first-class passengers were very deliberately not looking their direction. Even Derek had turned his face away, his shoulders shaking. I can see her head, Sandra said, and there was wonder in her voice. She has hair, a lot of it. Really? Amara gasped. Dark curls just like yours. Okay, another push with the next contraction. Big one. The contraction came, and Amara bore down, pushing with everything she had. She felt her daughter move, felt the impossible pressure and stretch, and then a sound, a cry, weak and mewling like a kitten, but a cry nonetheless. "She's here," Sandra said, and she was crying. "Amara, your daughter is here." Judge Frost was crying too. Even Jessica had tears streaming down her face as she helped Sandra clear the baby's airway, wrap her in blankets, place her on Amara's chest. Zara was tiny, impossibly tiny. Her skin was translucent, showing the delicate network of veins beneath. Her eyes were squeezed shut against the harsh cabin lights. Her fingers were perfect miniatures, curling and uncurling reflexively. And she was breathing, struggling, fighting for each breath, but breathing. "Hello, baby girl," Amara whispered, and her daughter's eyes flickered open for just a moment, dark eyes that seemed to look directly at her. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to meet you." Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Atlanta. I'm told we have a new passenger who couldn't wait for landing. Congratulations to the new mother. Emergency medical is standing by." A smattering of applause rippled through the cabin, tentative at first, then building. Even some of the passengers and coach who'd been complaining about the delay were clapping. Sandra was working quickly, her hands moving with practiced efficiency as she clamped and cut the umbilical cord, checked Zara's vital signs. "Her breathing is labored," she said quietly. "She needs oxygen warming monitoring, but she's alive. She's fighting." "She's a fighter," Amara agreed, unable to look away from her daughter's face. "Just like her mama." The plane banked, beginning its descent. Through the window, Amara could see the Atlanta skyline emerging from the early morning haze. Somewhere down there was a hospital, a team of neonatal specialists' equipment that could help her daughter breathe easier. Somewhere down there was her future, whatever that looked like now. "Agent Williams," Judge Frost said softly. "Thank you." "For what?" "For reminding an old woman why the fight matters, why we can't give up even when it seems impossible." The judge glanced toward Derek, who was openly weeping now. "Even people who've lost their way can sometimes find it again, though he has a long road ahead of him." "What will happen to him?" Amara asked, though she already knew. "He'll be charged. He'll go to trial. If convicted, and given the evidence he will be, he'll serve time. But maybe, just maybe, he'll also get help. Real help. The kind that addresses the grief and trauma that turned him into someone who kicks pregnant women." "I'm sorry," Derek said from his seat. His voice was hoarse. "I know that doesn't change anything. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did. But I'm so sorry." Amara looked at him, looked at this broken man who'd almost killed her daughter, who'd assaulted her because he couldn't deal with his own pain, who represented everything she'd spent 8 months fighting against. And she made a choice. "My daughter is alive," she said. "When she's older, I'll tell her about today, about how she was born on an airplane because a man let his hate control him. But I'll also tell her about the people who helped Sandra and Jessica and Marcus and Judge Frost. I'll tell her about the teenager who recorded what happened. I'll tell her about the captain who diverted the flight. I'll tell her that for every person who does harm, there are 10 more who do good. That's the world I want her to know." The plane touched down with barely a bump. Through the window, Amara could see emergency vehicles racing alongside them on the tarmac, ambulances, fire trucks, FBI vehicles. The cavalry had arrived, but she'd already won. Zara stirred against her chest, making a small sound of protest. Her breathing was still labored, her color not quite right, but she was here. She was alive. "We're here, baby girl," Amara whispered. "We made it. Now the real fight begins." The plane came to a stop. The door opened. A team of paramedics rushed aboard with equipment, oxygen, warm blankets designed for premature infants. "Agent Williams." The lead paramedic was a young black woman with kind eyes. "I'm Maya. We're going to take good care of your daughter. I promise." They transferred Zara, carefully placing her in a mobile isolette connecting monitors. Her heart rate was rapid but steady. Her oxygen saturation was low but improving. The numbers on the screen became Amara's whole world. "We need to go now," Maya said. "You're coming with us." Amara tried to stand and nearly collapsed. Sandra and Judge Frost caught her, holding her upright. "Easy," Sandra said. "You just gave birth. Your body needs time." "I don't have time," Amara said, but let them help her onto the waiting stretcher. As they wheeled her past Derek's seat, he looked up. "What's her name?" he asked. "Your daughter." "Zara," Amara said. "After my grandmother. It means princess in Arabic, radiance in Hebrew. It means hope." Derek nodded slowly. "That's a good name. A strong name." He paused. "I hope she makes it." "She will," Amara said with absolute certainty, "because she has no other choice." They rushed her off the plane through the jetway past dozens of FBI agents who'd responded to the call. She caught a glimpse of her supervisor, Assistant Director Marcus Reed, his face tight with concern. He fell into step beside the stretcher. "Amara, Jesus Christ, are you okay? We got Captain Morrison's call and I—" He stopped as he saw Zara in the isolette. "Is that—" "My daughter," Amara said. "Zara. She was born at 30,000 feet after a suspect assaulted me." Reed's expression went from concern to cold fury in an instant. "Where is he?" "Still on the plane in custody, along with evidence that he's connected to the Patriot Brotherhood case. His name is Derek Thornton. Run him through the database. I'm betting he shows up in our surveillance." "Consider it done." Reed's hand found hers, squeezed gently. "Focus on your daughter. We'll handle the rest." The ambulance doors closed behind them, sirens already wailing as they pulled away from the plane. Through the small window, Amara could see Derek being led off in handcuffs, his head down, his body language defeated. She thought about his daughter Emma, who didn't make it, about how grief and pain could twist a person into something unrecognizable, about how hate was often just hurt that hadn't been properly processed. But mostly, she thought about Zara fighting for every breath in the isolette beside her. "Ma'am," Maya said, "we're going to need you to answer some questions for intake. Can you tell me your full name and date of birth?" Amara recited the information automatically, her eyes never leaving Zara's tiny form. The monitors beeped steadily, heart rate 165 oxygen saturation climbing to 89% temperature, 96.5, and rising in the warmed isolette. "Any medical history we should know about allergies, current medications, no allergies, prenatal vitamins, otherwise healthy pregnancy until—" Her voice broke. "Until today." "Okay, and the baby's father, is he being notified?" "There's no father in the picture," Amara said. "It's just us, me and Zara." Maya made notes on her tablet, but her expression was understanding rather than judgmental. "Any family we can call someone who can be with you. My sister, Carmen Williams. She's in Miami. I'll call her once we—" Another contraction hit, unexpected and painful. "Is that normal?" "Delivering the placenta," Sandra said. She'd insisted on riding in the ambulance. "Perfectly normal." The ambulance turned sharply, sirens screaming, racing through Atlanta traffic. Through the windows, Amara caught glimpses of the city highways and skyscrapers and the massive hospital complex looming ahead. Grady Memorial, Level 1 Trauma Center, one of the best NICUs in the Southeast, Judge Frost had said. Zara would be okay. She had to be. They pulled up to the emergency entrance, and suddenly everything was movement and noise and controlled chaos. A team of neonatal specialists was waiting, already prepped and ready. They transferred Zara immediately, their hands gentle but efficient as they checked her over. "Respiratory distress as expected for 30 weeks gestation," one of them was saying. "We'll start her on CPAP, get a blood gas chest x-ray. Mom, she's going to need to go to the NICU right away. We'll keep you updated every step of the way." "I want to go with her," Amara said. "You need to be examined first," a nurse said firmly. "You just gave birth in less than ideal circumstances. We need to make sure you're okay before you can see her." "But, Amara," Sandra's voice was gentle but firm. "Let them do their jobs. I'll go with Zara. I'll stay with her until you can get there. I promise she won't be alone." Amara wanted to argue. wanted to demand, wanted to pull rank and flash her badge and make them understand that her daughter needed her. But Sandra was right, and the exhaustion that had been held at bay by adrenaline was crashing over her, now making her limbs heavy and her vision blur. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." They wheeled Zara away, Sandra following close behind. Amara watched until her daughter disappeared around a corner, and then she let the nurses guide her to an exam room where they could check her bleeding, her blood pressure, her everything. "You did good, Agent Williams," one of them said. She was older with gray streaks in her hair and a name tag that read Patricia. "Your daughter is a fighter, just like her mama." Amara closed her eyes and let them work. The exam room smelled like antiseptic, and something else Amara couldn't quite place: fear, maybe, or desperation. Patricia worked efficiently, checking Amara's vitals, while a younger nurse named Beth drew blood for labs. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, making everything feel surreal and clinical. "Blood pressure is elevated, but not dangerously so," Patricia said, wrapping the cuff around Amara's arm for the third time in 10 minutes. 140/90. Given what you've been through, I'm actually surprised it's not higher. "I need to see my daughter," Amara said. She'd been saying it for 20 minutes now, a broken record nobody seemed interested in fixing. "Soon?" Patricia promised the same answer she'd given every time. "Dr. Reeves needs to examine you first. He's on his way up from surgery." "I don't need a doctor. I need to see Zara." Beth exchanged a glance with Patricia, the kind of look that passed between medical professionals when they knew something the patient didn't. Amara had seen that look before during her husband Marcus's final hours at Walter Reed. Except there had been no husband, no Marcus, no final hours. Just a lie she'd told Derek Thornton to shame him into silence. The door opened, and a man in surgical scrubs entered, pulling off a cap to reveal close-cropped gray hair. "Agent Williams, I'm Dr. Reeves. I understand you had quite an eventful flight." "My daughter," Amara said immediately. "How is she? Where is she? I need to see her." Dr. Reeves pulled up a stool and sat, which somehow made everything worse. Doctors who had good news didn't sit. They stood, smiled, delivered their optimistic prognosis, and moved on to the next patient. Doctors who sat were preparing you for impact. "Zara is in our level 3 NICU, he said carefully. "She's on CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure to help her breathe. Her oxygen saturation is holding steady at 92%, which is good for a 30-week preemie. Her heart rate is elevated but within expected parameters." "But," Amara said, because there was always a but. "But she's very small, 3 pounds, 2 ounces. And her lungs are underdeveloped, which we expected. We've administered surfactant to help them expand, and she's responding well. However, the next 72 hours are critical. If she can maintain stable vitals through that window, her prognosis improves significantly." 3 pounds. Amara tried to imagine it. The weight of a bag of flour, a small laptop, nothing. Her daughter weighed nothing. "I need to see her," Amara said again. "I understand, but first I need to examine you. You delivered without medical supervision in a non-sterile environment. There's risk of infection, hemorrhage, retained placenta tissue. I need to make sure you're stable before—" "I'm stable," Amara interrupted. "I'm talking, I'm breathing, I'm not bleeding out. That's stable." Dr. Reeves didn't smile. "Agent Williams, your daughter needs you healthy. If something happens to you, if you develop an infection or start hemorrhaging, you can't be there for her. Give me 15 minutes to confirm you're okay, and then I'll take you to the NICU myself. Deal?" Amara wanted to argue, wanted to pull rank, wanted to scream, but he was right, and she knew it. 15 minutes, she said. Not a second longer. The examination was invasive and uncomfortable and took 23 minutes, not 15, but Amara counted every second. Dr. Reeves was thorough to the point of obsessive checking everything twice, ordering additional labs, consulting with Patricia in whispered tones that made Amara's anxiety spike. Finally, mercifully, he stepped back. "You're lucky. No signs of infection, no retained tissue bleeding is minimal and expected. You're going to be sore for a while and you'll need to take it easy, but overall you came through remarkably well. Can I see her now?" Yes, but Agent Williams, I need you to prepare yourself. The NICU can be overwhelming, especially for first-time mothers. Zara is going to look fragile. She'll have wires and tubes and monitors. It's frightening, but it's all helping her. Can you handle that? I went undercover with white supremacists for 8 months while pregnant, Amara said flatly. I can handle some medical equipment. Dr. Reeves helped her into a wheelchair, despite her protests that she could walk. Hospital policy, he said. She was technically still a patient. Patricia appeared with a hospital gown and grip socks, insisting Amara change before going to the NICU. Infection control, Patricia explained. Everyone who enters the unit has to follow strict protocols. It's for the baby's protection. The NICU was on the 4th floor. Dr. Reeves pushed her wheelchair himself, navigating through corridors that all looked the same. Beige walls, numbered doors, the constant background noise of monitors and muffled conversations. They passed other patients, other families, other dramas playing out in real time. A young couple clutching each other and crying. An older woman sitting alone outside a room, rosary beads moving through her fingers. A doctor walking quickly, face set in grim determination. "This is us," Dr. Reeves said, stopping at a set of double doors marked Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. "Before we go in, you need to scrub. 3 minutes wrists to elbows. Patricia will show you how." The scrub sink was just inside the doors. Patricia demonstrated the technique, soap water methodical circles working up from fingertips. Amara's hands shook as she imitated the movements. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. "Good," Patricia said finally. "Now gown and gloves." The NICU itself was dimly lit, each baby station separated by curtains that created small islands of privacy. Monitors beeped and whirred, creating a symphony of mechanical sounds that was somehow both chaotic and rhythmic. Nurses moved between stations with quiet efficiency, checking charts, adjusting settings, speaking in hushed tones. "She's in Pod 3, Dr. Reeves said, guiding Amara's wheelchair past 2 other isolettes toward the back corner of the unit. Station 12. And there she was. Zara lay on her back in a clear plastic box that looked more like something from a science fiction movie than a medical device. She was naked except for a diaper that seemed impossibly large on her tiny body. Wires sprouted from her chest, connected to monitors that displayed numbers Amara didn't understand. A clear tube ran into her nose, the CPAP Amara remembered. Her skin had a translucent quality, showing the delicate tracery of veins beneath. Her eyes were covered with small patches to protect them from the phototherapy lights above. She was the most beautiful thing Amara had ever seen. "Can I touch her?" Amara whispered. "Yes," said a new voice. A nurse appeared beside them, a young Latina woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read, Maria. "But we have to be careful. Preemies are very sensitive to stimulation. Gentle touch only, and watch her monitors. If her oxygen saturation drops or her heart rate gets erratic, we need to stop." Maria opened the isolette's portholes and guided Amara's hands inside. Cup her head with one hand, place the other on her belly. Let her feel your warmth, your presence. Amara's hands trembled as she made contact with her daughter's skin. Zara was warm, almost hot from the heated isolette. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, too rapidly, fighting for each breath, despite the CPAP's assistance. Under Amara's palm, she could feel her daughter's heart racing, a hummingbird trapped in a cage of ribs. "Hey, baby girl," Amara said softly. "It's Mama. I'm here. I'm right here." Zara's hand curled reflexively, tiny fingers grasping at nothing. Without thinking, Amara slid her pinky into her daughter's palm. Zara's grip tightened, holding on with surprising strength for someone so small. "She knows you," Maria said. "Babies recognize their mother's voice even this early. Talk to her. Tell her about yourself. It helps." "I don't know what to say," Amara admitted. "Tell her the truth. Tell her you love her. Tell her to fight." So Amara talked. She told Zara about her grandmother, the original Zara who'd marched for civil rights and raised Amara alone after her parents died. She told her about the FBI, about why she'd joined, about the cases she'd worked. She told her about the undercover operation, about spending 8 months pretending to be someone she wasn't so that other people's children would be safer. She didn't tell her about Derek Thornton. Not yet. Some stories could wait. "Agent Williams," a new voice interrupted. Amara looked up to see a woman in a white coat, older with steel-gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, the attending neonatologist. I'll be overseeing Zara's care." "How is she?" Amara asked, reluctant to remove her hands from the isolette. "Really? Not the sanitized version?" Dr. Chen pulled up a stool, settling in like she had all the time in the world. "Really, she's doing as well as we could hope for a 30-week preemie who was born in less than ideal circumstances. Her APGAR scores were 6 at 1 minute and 8 at 5 minutes, which is actually quite good. She's maintaining her temperature, her blood sugar is stable, and her initial labs look promising. But," Amara said, because again there was always a but she's not out of the woods. The first concern is her lungs. Respiratory distress syndrome is common in preemies, and while the surfactant we gave her is helping, she may need additional support. If the CPAP isn't enough, we may need to intubate and put her on a ventilator. What else? Potential for infection. Her immune system is immature. Feeding difficulties, her suck and swallow reflexes aren't fully developed yet, so she'll need tube feeding initially. Brain bleeds are a risk with any premature birth. We'll do a head ultrasound in the next 24 hours to check for that, and there's always the possibility of complications we can't predict. Amara felt each word like a physical blow, but she forced herself to listen to understand. "What are her chances?" "Be honest." Dr. Chen met her eyes directly. "Survival rate for 30-week preemies in a facility like ours is about 95%. But survival isn't the only metric. About 10% will have some form of long-term disability vision problems, hearing loss, developmental delays, cerebral palsy. Another 15 to 20% will have milder issues that may resolve with therapy. So there's a 70% chance she's completely fine. Eventually, yes, but the road to fine can be long. The average NICU stay for a 30-weeker is 6 to 8 weeks. Some babies go home sooner. Some need longer. It's impossible to predict. 6 to 8 weeks. Amara tried to wrap her mind around it. 2 months of living in this dim, beeping room. 2 months of watching her daughter fight for every breath. 2 months of not knowing if each day would bring progress or setback. "I'll take it," Amara said. "Whatever she needs, however long it takes." Dr. Chen smiled a genuine expression that softened her severe features. "Good, because she's going to need you." Preemies do better when their mothers are involved in their care. Kangaroo care once she's stable enough, pumping breast milk even if she can't nurse yet. Being here, talking to her, touching her, all of it matters. "I'm not going anywhere," Amara promised. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She'd forgotten she even had it. The screen showed 15 missed calls from Assistant Director Reed 8, from a number she didn't recognize, and a text message from her sister Carmen that simply said, "Call me now." "I need to make some calls," Amara said reluctantly. "Go," Maria said. "We'll watch her. I'll come get you immediately if anything changes." Amara stepped out into the hallway, suddenly aware of how exhausted she was. Her body ached deep, bone-tired soreness that made every movement feel like wading through honey. When was the last time she'd slept before boarding the flight in Chicago? 18 hours ago. 20. She called Carmen first. Her sister answered on the first ring. "Oh my God, Amara, I've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? I'm at the airport right now trying to get a flight to Atlanta, but everything's booked and I'm on standby and—" "Carmen, breathe," Amara interrupted. "We're okay. Both of us. She was born on the plane." Silence. Then, "She was what?" "Born on the plane. A passenger assaulted me, triggered premature labor. Zara was delivered at 30,000 feet by a nurse named Sandra who happened to be on board." "I'm going to need you to start from the beginning," Carmen said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "And don't leave anything out." So Amara told her, all of it, Derek Thornton and his Confederate pin, the kick, the bleeding, the contractions getting closer together. Judge Frost and Jessica and Sandra and the emergency delivery in first class. Landing in Atlanta, the rush to Grady Memorial. Zara in her isolette with wires and tubes and monitors. Carmen was crying by the time she finished. "I'm getting to Atlanta tonight if I have to charter a private plane. Don't argue with me. You shouldn't be alone." "I'm not alone," Amara said. But even as she spoke, she looked around the empty hallway and realized that actually she was. Sandra had stayed with Zara until Amara could get to the NICU, but then she'd left. She had her own family, her own life. Judge Frost had given her contact information and promised to check in, but she wasn't here. The FBI agents who'd responded to the airport were dealing with Derek Thornton, not with her. "You're alone," Carmen said, reading her silence correctly. "I'm coming. Give me 6 hours." They talked for a few more minutes, Carmen asking detailed medical questions that Amara only half knew the answers to, promising to bring clothes and toiletries and anything else Amara might need. When they finally hung up, Amara felt marginally better. Carmen would come. Carmen would help. Carmen always did. She called Reed next. "Jesus Christ, Amara, where have you been?" Reed didn't bother with pleasantries. "I've been trying to reach you since the plane landed. Are you okay?" "Define okay," Amara said. "Your daughter is in the NICU, 3 pounds 2 ounces, born at 30 weeks, currently on CPAP for respiratory support. Long-term prognosis unknown, but cautiously optimistic." Reed made a sound that might have been relief or distress or both. "I'm sorry. I'm so goddamn sorry this happened to you." "Tell me about Thornton," Amara said, because focusing on the case was easier than focusing on her tiny daughter fighting for breath 4 floors above her. "Did you run him?" "We did. And you were right. He's connected to the Patriot Brotherhood, not a core member but a donor and occasional attendee at rallies. His name came up in some of the communications we intercepted during your undercover op, but never prominently enough to warrant investigation." "What's he saying now?" "Nothing. Lawyered up immediately. But we don't need his cooperation. We have the teenager's video showing the assault. We have testimony from multiple witnesses, including a retired federal judge. We have him on assaulting a federal officer, which carries serious time. And now that we know he's connected to the Brotherhood, we can leverage that for information about their operations." Amara leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. "He told me his daughter died. 10 years ago, premature birth at 28 weeks. That's what radicalized him." "That's what he claims radicalized him," Reed corrected. "People make choices, Amara. Grief doesn't excuse hate." "I know. But understanding the why matters if we want to prevent the next Derek Thornton." Reed was quiet for a moment. "How are you doing, really?" "I just gave birth on an airplane after being assaulted by a white supremacist. My daughter is in the NICU and might have long-term disabilities. I haven't slept in over 24 hours, and I'm wearing a hospital gown that smells like industrial detergent. How do you think I'm doing?" "Like you need to take some time off," Reed said gently. "I'm putting you on medical leave effective immediately, minimum 3 months longer if needed. No arguments. The trial. We'll proceed without you if necessary. We have your testimony on record. We have the evidence you gathered. We have enough to convict without putting you on the stand. Your job right now is to take care of your daughter and yourself. That's an order." Part of Amara wanted to protest, to insist she could handle both the trial and new motherhood, but the larger part, the part that was barely holding it together, felt only relief. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I'm also assigning a protective detail," Reed continued. "The Brotherhood knows you were the one who infiltrated them. The trial's getting significant media coverage. You're going to be a target, and with a newborn you're vulnerable. I can protect myself. I know you can, but humor me. 2 agents rotating shifts. They'll be discreet." Amara didn't have the energy to argue. "Fine. I'll be there tomorrow," Reed said, "to check on you and to coordinate with local field office. Anything you need before then." "Sleep," Amara said. "About a week's worth." When she hung up, the hallway seemed even quieter than before. She should go back to the NICU, back to Zara, but her legs felt like they might give out if she tried to walk. She slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled up to her chest, and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. Terror, guilt, rage, grief, love so fierce it felt like drowning. "Agent Williams," a soft voice. Amara looked up to see Sandra standing there, shopping bags in both hands. "I thought you might need some things. Clothes, toiletries, snacks." "The hospital cafeteria is terrible, and you need to keep your strength up if you're going to pump." Amara stared at her, this woman who'd helped deliver her baby, who'd promised to stay with Zara, who had no obligation to be here. "Why are you doing this?" Sandra set down the bags and lowered herself to the floor beside Amara. "Because 23 years ago I had a preemie, 27 weeks, barely 2 pounds. I was alone. His father had left when he found out I was pregnant. My family had disowned me for having a baby out of wedlock. I spent 9 weeks in a NICU, not unlike this one, terrified and isolated, and barely holding it together." "What happened?" Amara asked. "A nurse named Dorothy took me under her wing. She taught me how to pump, how to do kangaroo care, how to read the monitors, so I'd know when to worry and when to relax. She stayed late on her shifts to sit with me. She brought me food when I forgot to eat. She held me when I cried. She saved my life as surely as the doctor saved my son's." "Your son, is he okay?" Sandra smiled. "He's a software engineer in Seattle, married 2 kids of his own, completely healthy. You'd never know he spent the first 2 months of his life fighting for every breath." "So you're paying it forward," Amara said. "I'm being Dorothy for someone else, because nobody should have to do this alone." Amara felt tears burning behind her eyes and didn't try to stop them. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat together in the quiet hallway, 2 mothers separated by decades and circumstances, but connected by the universal experience of loving someone more than yourself and fearing you won't be enough to keep them safe. "Come on," Sandra said, eventually pulling herself to her feet and offering Amara a hand up. "Let me show you the pumping room. You need to start establishing supply even if Zara can't nurse yet." And the pumping room was small and institutional, with a recliner and a hospital-grade breast pump that looked more intimidating than any weapon Amara had ever handled. Sandra explained the process with the same calm efficiency she'd shown during the delivery. "Every 3 hours," Sandra said, "set alarms on your phone. I know it seems excessive, but it's the only way to establish and maintain supply for a preemie who can't nurse." The first attempt was awkward and uncomfortable and produced exactly 4 milliliters of clear yellowish fluid that Sandra assured her was liquid gold colostrum, packed with antibodies Zara desperately needed. "That's it," Amara said, staring at the tiny amount in the collection bottle. "For now, your milk won't fully come in for a few days, but this is exactly what she needs right now. Trust the process." They labeled the bottle with Zara's name and the date and time, and Sandra showed Amara how to store it in the NICU's designated refrigerator. Other bottles lined the shelves, each labeled with a baby's name and room number. Evidence of other mothers, other struggles, other tiny fighters. When they returned to the NICU, Maria was adjusting Zara's monitors. "She's been stable," the nurse reported. "Oxygen sat holding at 93% heart rate, between 140 and 160. She had a small Brady episode, her heart rate dropped, but she recovered on her own without stimulation." Brady episode. Amara's alarm must have shown on her face because Maria immediately made soothing gestures. Bradycardia, when the heart rate drops below 100. It's extremely common in preemies. Their nervous systems are immature, and sometimes they forget to breathe or their heart forgets to beat at the right speed. Usually they correct themselves. If not, we provide gentle stimulation. It's scary, but it's normal for where she is developmentally. Normal. Amara was learning that normal in the NICU was a very different concept than normal in the outside world. "Can I hold her?" Amara asked. Maria checked the monitors, consulted with Dr. Chen, who was making rounds, and finally nodded. "Kangaroo care. It's good for both of you, but we need to be careful moving her with all the wires." They positioned Amara in a recliner beside the isolette, adjusting it until she was at the right angle. Maria carefully disconnected some of Zara's monitors temporarily, then lifted the tiny baby with practiced ease and placed her directly on Amara's bare chest, skin to skin. They covered both of them with warm blankets, reconnected the monitors, and stepped back. Zara weighed almost nothing against her chest. Amara could feel every breath her daughter took, every heartbeat the warmth of her skin. This close, she could see the tiny details, perfect eyelashes, miniature fingernails, the way Zara's mouth made small sucking motions, even in sleep. "Talk to her," Sandra encouraged. "Sing if you want, she can hear you." Amara didn't know any lullabies. Her grandmother had sung hymns, old spirituals about freedom and deliverance, so that's what Amara sang. Her voice was rough cracking on the high notes, but Zara seemed to settle deeper against her chest as she sang. An hour passed, then another. Nurses came and went, checking monitors, making notes. Dr. Chen stopped by to observe nodding approval at Zara's stable vitals during kangaroo care. Sandra left to go home to her own family, but promised to return tomorrow. And through it all, Amara held her daughter and tried not to think about all the ways this could still go wrong. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Helen Frost, the judge from the plane. I hope you and Zara are doing well. I spoke with the U.S. Attorney's Office about Derek Thornton. They're proceeding with charges. Let me know if you need anything. And I mean anything." Before Amara could respond, another text came through, this one from a number that made her blood run cold. It was Derek Thornton's phone number. She recognized it from the FBI database. The message was short. "I'm sorry about your daughter. I hope she survives. What I did was unforgivable, but you should know there are others in the Brotherhood who know who you are, what you did. They're planning something. I don't know details, but I heard them talking while I was being processed. Watch your back." Amara's arms tightened instinctively around Zara. Maria noticed immediately. "Everything okay?" "I need to make a call," Amara said. "Can someone take her?" They moved Zara back to her isolette, and Amara stepped into the hallway with her phone dialing Reed's number with shaking hands. "What's wrong?" Reed answered immediately. "I just got a text from Derek Thornton's phone. He's claiming the Brotherhood knows I was the undercover agent, and they're planning something." "Forward me the message," Reed said, his voice tight. "I'm activating that protective detail immediately. How the hell did he get a phone in custody?" "I don't know, but Marcus, if they're targeting me and I'm in a hospital with my newborn, I'm on it. Protective detail will be there within the hour. Hospital security is being notified now. Nobody gets near you or Zara without clearance. I promise." They hung up, and Amara stood in the hallway, hyper-aware suddenly of every person walking past, every face she didn't recognize. The Brotherhood had resources connections, people in law enforcement and security. If they wanted to get to her, a hospital wouldn't stop them. She returned to the NICU to find Maria looking concerned. "Agent Williams, Zara's oxygen saturation has dropped. We've increased the CPAP pressure, but she's still struggling. Dr. Chen wants to discuss next steps." The bottom dropped out of Amara's world. "What does that mean?" "It might mean intubation, doctor," Chen said, appearing at her elbow. "We want to avoid it if possible. Intubation carries its own risks. But if she can't maintain adequate oxygen levels with CPAP, we don't have a choice." Amara looked at her daughter, watched her tiny chest working too hard, saw the numbers on the monitor ticking downward. 89%, 87, 85. "Do whatever she needs," Amara said. "I don't care about the risks. Save her." Dr. Chen was already moving, calling for equipment for respiratory therapy for additional staff. The NICU, previously quiet and calm, erupted into controlled chaos as they prepared for intubation. And Amara stood there useless and terrified, watching as strangers surrounded her daughter with tools and tubes and expertise she didn't have, praying to a God she wasn't sure she believed in, that Zara would survive this, that they both would. The respiratory therapist was a compact man with steady hands and a nameplate that read James. He moved around Zara's isolette with the confidence of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. But Amara saw the tension in his shoulders, the way he double-checked every piece of equipment before using it. "We're going to give her a sedative first," Dr. Chen explained, her voice deliberately calm. "She needs to be still for the intubation. It'll only take a few minutes, but I won't lie to you, Agent Williams. It's going to be hard to watch. I've watched autopsies. Amara said, but her voice shook. "I've seen crime scenes that would make most people vomit. I can handle this." Maria touched her arm gently. "This is different. This is your baby. Nobody handles this well. If you need to step out—" "I'm staying," Amara said firmly. "She shouldn't be alone." Dr. Chen nodded. "Then I need you to stand back and let us work. No matter what you see, no matter what the monitors show, trust that we know what we're doing." The sedative went in through Zara's IV line. Within seconds, her tiny body went limp, the constant small movements ceasing entirely. The monitor showed her oxygen saturation continuing to drop. 83%, 81. James positioned a specialized laryngoscope, tilting Zara's head back to expose her airway. The breathing tube was impossibly small, designed for premature infants, but it still looked enormous compared to Zara's delicate throat. "Visualizing the chords," James said. His hands moved with precision, guiding the tube. "Almost there. 79%, 76. Amara's own breathing had become shallow and rapid. Her hands gripped the railing of the isolette so hard her knuckles went white. She wanted to look away, but forced herself to watch to bear witness to what her daughter was enduring. "Tube's in," James announced, confirming placement. He attached a bag valve mask and squeezed manually breathing for Zara, while Dr. Chen listened to her lungs with a stethoscope. "Good breath sounds bilaterally," Dr. Chen said. "Let's get her on the vent." They connected Zara to a ventilator, a machine that would breathe for her until her lungs were strong enough to work independently. The rhythmic hiss and click of the ventilator filled the space around the isolette mechanical and alien, but the numbers on the monitor began to climb. 78, 82, 86, 90. "There we go," Dr. Chen said, satisfaction clear in her voice. "She's saturating well. Heart rate's coming down to a more comfortable range." Amara felt her knees buckle, and Maria caught her, guiding her to a chair. "Breathe," the nurse instructed. "You're pale, head between your knees." "I'm fine," Amara protested, but she did as she was told because the alternative was passing out on the NICU floor. "You just watched your daughter get intubated," Maria said. "Fine is relative." When Amara finally raised her head, the immediate crisis had passed. Dr. Chen was adjusting ventilator settings while James documented everything in Zara's chart. The other NICU nurses had dispersed back to their own patients, the controlled emergency over as quickly as it had begun. "How long will she need the ventilator?" Amara asked. "Impossible to say," Dr. Chen replied. "Could be days, could be weeks. We'll try to wean her off as soon as her lungs show they can handle the work. But for now, this is what she needs." Amara approached the isolette, looking at her daughter, who now had even more tubes and wires than before. The breathing tube was secured with tape across Zara's tiny face, obscuring her features. She looked more like a science experiment than a baby. "Can she feel it?" "The tube. The sedation will wear off soon, but we'll keep her comfortable with pain medication," Dr. Chen assured her. "Intubation isn't pleasant, but it's better than struggling to breathe." Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Reed. "Protective detail is en route. ETA 15 minutes. Hospital security has your photo and Zara's room number. They're implementing additional protocols." She showed the message to Maria. "I need to brief you on something. There's a credible threat against me and potentially against Zara. The FBI is sending protective detail, but I need everyone who works in this NICU to be aware." Maria's eyes widened. "What kind of threat?" "The domestic terrorism organization I infiltrated knows my identity. One of their members assaulted me on the plane, which is why Zara was born prematurely. He's in custody, but he warned me that others in the organization are planning something." "Oh my God," Maria breathed. "Does Dr. Chen know?" "She will in about 30 seconds. Amara flagged down the attending physician and explained the situation in terse clinical terms. Dr. Chen's expression grew progressively grimmer. "I'm implementing lockdown protocols for this pod," Dr. Chen said immediately. "Only approved family members and medical staff with proper credentials can access Station 12. I'll notify the charge nurse and security." "I'm sorry," Amara said. "I never wanted to bring danger here." "You didn't bring it," Dr. Chen corrected. Terrorists did. We'll keep both of you safe." Two FBI agents arrived 20 minutes later, flashing credentials to the NICU staff before approaching Amara. The first was a woman in her early 40s with cropped blonde hair and alert gray eyes. "Special Agent Lauren Mitchell," she introduced herself. "This is my partner, Special Agent David Park." Park was younger, maybe 30, with dark hair and the build of someone who spent serious time in the gym. "Ma'am," he said with a slight nod. "Assistant Director Reed briefed us on the threat," Mitchell said. "We'll be maintaining a presence outside the NICU in shifts. One of us will always be here. We're coordinating with hospital security to monitor all access points." "What about when I leave the NICU?" Amara asked. "I'll need to sleep, eventually shower, eat." "We'll escort you," Park said. "You don't go anywhere in this hospital without one of us." It should have felt suffocating, this constant surveillance, but instead Amara felt only relief. She wasn't alone. She had backup. Her phone rang. Carmen. "I'm at the airport," her sister said without preamble. "The flight board's in 20 minutes. I'll be there by 9 o'clock your time." "Carmen, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're my baby sister, and you just gave birth on an airplane, and your daughter is in the NICU, and apparently white supremacists are threatening you. So yes, I absolutely have to. Don't argue." Amara felt tears prickling again. "Thank you." "How is she, Zara?" "She had to be intubated. She's on a ventilator now." Carmen's sharp intake of breath was audible even through the phone. "But she's okay. She's stable." "For now, the next 72 hours are critical." "I'll be there in 6 hours," Carmen promised. "Hold on until then, both of you." After they hung up, Amara returned to Zara's bedside. The ventilator continued its rhythmic work breathing for her daughter, while Zara's small body fought to heal and grow. Maria showed Amara how to read the various monitors, explaining what each number meant and what ranges were concerning. "This one's her oxygen saturation," Maria pointed. "We want to see it between 90 and 95% for a baby her age. Higher isn't necessarily better because too much oxygen can damage premature retinas." "And this," Amara indicated another display. "Heart rate. Normal for her is 120 to 160. If it goes below 100 or above 180, we get concerned." The education helped, gave Amara something to focus on besides the constant what-ifs and worst-case scenarios that wanted to consume her thoughts. Agent Mitchell appeared at her elbow. "Agent Williams, there's someone here to see you. Says her name is Helen Frost, retired federal judge." "Let her in," Amara said immediately. Judge Frost entered the NICU minutes later, moving carefully as Maria instructed her on scrubbing and gowning protocols. When she reached Station 12, she took one look at Zara, and her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, that precious girl," she said softly. "She's so tiny, so brave." "She had to be intubated," Amara explained. "Her lungs weren't handling the CPAP." "My youngest was on a ventilator for 3 weeks," Judge Frost said. "I remember sitting exactly where you're sitting now, terrified every time the alarms went off, convinced every setback was the beginning of the end." She paused. "But he made it, and so will she." They sat together in companionable silence, watching Zara breathe with mechanical assistance. Finally, Judge Frost spoke again. "I've been thinking about Derek Thornton, about what drives a man to kick a pregnant woman." "A grief," Amara said. "He told me his daughter died after a premature birth. His wife left him. He was vulnerable, and the Brotherhood gave him someone to blame." "That's remarkably compassionate of you." "Understanding isn't the same as forgiving," Amara clarified. "He made choices. He chose hate. But if we don't understand why people make those choices, we can't prevent the next Derek Thornton." Judge Frost studied her thoughtfully. "You're going to be a good mother, teaching her nuance, empathy, justice without vengeance." "If I get the chance," Amara said quietly. "You will. I've presided over enough cases to recognize a fighter. Zara has your determination. She'll pull through." A commotion outside the NICU drew their attention. Raised voices, someone arguing with the security guard at the entrance. Agent Park was already moving toward the disturbance, one hand on his weapon. Maria hurried over to Station 12. "We're locking down the pod. Standard precaution until security clears whoever that is." Through the glass partition, Amara could see a man in a suit gesturing angrily at the guard. He looked vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place him. Park returned minutes later, his expression grim. "That's Marcus Thornton, Derek's brother. He's demanding to speak with you." The name sent ice through Amara's veins. Marcus Thornton flagged in FBI databases as a person of interest in domestic terrorism, the man who'd been sitting in row 5 of the plane who Derek had glanced at before the assault. "He knows I'm here," Amara said. "He claims he has information about the threat against you," Park continued. "Says he'll only speak to you directly." "It could be a trap," Mitchell said, joining them. "Or it could be legitimate," Judge Frost countered. "Brothers turn on each other all the time, especially when one of them is facing serious prison time." Amara looked at Zara, stable for now, but so fragile then, back at the agents. "Set up a meeting, somewhere secure, but not here, not in the NICU where he can see my daughter." They arranged to use a hospital conference room with security presence and recording equipment. Amara left Zara in Maria's capable hands, Judge Frost volunteering to stay with the baby while Amara dealt with Marcus Thornton. The conference room was small and windowless, with a table and 4 chairs. Marcus was already seated when Amara entered, flanked by Park and Mitchell. He looked older than his 42 years, with deep lines around his eyes and gray threading through his dark hair. "Agent Williams," he said, half rising, "thank you for agreeing to see me." "You have 5 minutes," Amara said, remaining standing. "Start talking." Marcus took a breath. "My brother told me what he did to you, what he did to your baby. I want you to know I had nothing to do with that. I was on that plane by coincidence." "Coincidence?" Amara repeated flatly. "You just happened to be on the same flight as your brother, who just happens to be connected to the same terrorist organization I spent 8 months infiltrating." "I know how it looks," Marcus said quickly, "but I'm not part of the Brotherhood anymore. I left 2 years ago. I've been trying to distance myself from all of it." "Then why were you on that flight?" "Derek called me, said he needed to talk, that it was important. I didn't know about you, about the flight, about any of it, until I saw him kick you." Marcus's hands trembled slightly on the table. "I should have intervened. I should have stopped him. But I froze. I'm a coward." "Get to the point," Mitchell said sharply. "What information do you have?" Marcus pulled out his phone, setting it on the table. "The Brotherhood is planning an attack. Not on you specifically, though you're definitely a target. They're planning to hit the federal courthouse in Atlanta during Derek's arraignment. They figure if they can't free him, they'll make an example of what happens to members who get caught." The room went silent. "When?" Amara demanded. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Derek's arraignment is scheduled for 2:30. Park was already on his phone calling it in. Mitchell leaned forward. "How do you know this?" "I still have contacts in the organization. People who don't know I left, who think I'm still sympathetic to the cause. They reached out to me this morning, asked if I wanted to participate." Marcus met Amara's eyes. "I told them I'd think about it. Then I came here." "You could be lying," Amara said. "This could be misdirection. Get us focused on the courthouse while they hit a different target." "It could be," Marcus agreed. "But it's not. I swear to God, Agent Williams, I'm trying to do the right thing for once in my miserable life." "Why now?" Amara asked. "Why come forward now, after years of involvement with these people?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Because I watched my brother kick a pregnant woman, and I realized we'd become monsters. Because my niece died 10 years ago, and instead of getting help, Derek joined a hate group and I followed him because that's what brothers do. Because I'm tired of being afraid and angry and blaming everyone else for my failures." Amara studied him, using every skill she'd developed over 15 years of interviewing suspects and witnesses, looking for tells, for inconsistencies, for the subtle markers of deception. She saw fear in Marcus Thornton's eyes, and shame and desperation. But she also saw something that might have been genuine remorse. Mitchell get him into protective custody, Amara decided. Full debriefing every detail about the courthouse attack and anything else he knows about Brotherhood operations. If his information checks out, we'll discuss terms. "Thank you," Marcus said. "And Agent Williams, I really am sorry about everything." Amara didn't respond. She left the conference room and returned to the NICU, where Judge Frost was still sitting vigil beside Zara's isolette. "Well," the judge asked. "Possible credible threat against the federal courthouse tomorrow afternoon," Amara said. "Marcus Thornton claims the Brotherhood is planning an attack during his brother's arraignment. Do you believe him? I don't know, but we can't afford not to." Her phone rang. Reed. "I just got the briefing from Park," he said without preamble. "If Marcus Thornton is telling the truth, we're looking at a potential mass casualty event. I'm pulling in every available agent coordinating with ATF and local law enforcement. But Amara, there's a complication." "What complication?" "The U.S. Attorney wants Derek Thornton's arraignment to proceed as scheduled. They're refusing to postpone or relocate. They say giving in to terrorist threats sets a dangerous precedent." Amara closed her eyes. "So they're going to use Derek as bait?" "Essentially. Maximum security, every precaution in place, but yes. The arraignment happens tomorrow at 2:30. And if the Brotherhood actually attacks, if people die? Then we'll have done everything we could to prevent it," Reed said. But he didn't sound convinced. After he hung up, Amara returned to Zara's bedside. The baby's vitals remained stable, the ventilator doing its work. Maria had dimmed the lights in the pod, creating a small, peaceful bubble in the midst of the chaos. "You should try to sleep," Maria suggested. "We have a parent's room with a recliner. I'll come get you immediately if anything changes." "I can't sleep," Amara said. "Not with everything." "You haven't slept in over 24 hours, Maria interrupted gently. "You gave birth this morning. Your body needs rest or you're going to collapse, and Zara needs you healthy." Judge Frost stood. "I'll stay with her. Go. Sleep for a few hours. I promise she won't be alone." Reluctantly, Amara allowed herself to be led to the parents' room, a small space with a recliner and a side table, and nothing else. Mitchell posted herself outside the door, while Amara collapsed into the chair, certain she was too wired to actually sleep. She was unconscious within minutes. The dreams were fragmented and terrible. Derek Thornton kicking her stomach over and over while she couldn't move, couldn't fight back. Zara crying in an isolette she couldn't reach. The federal courthouse exploding in flames. Marcus Thornton laughing as bodies burned. She woke with a gasp to find Carmen standing over her, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, honey," her sister said, pulling Amara into a fierce hug. "I'm here. I'm here now." Amara clung to her, finally letting herself fall apart in a way she couldn't with the agents or the doctors or even Judge Frost. Carmen held her while she sobbed, making soothing sounds and stroking her hair the way their grandmother used to. "How's Zara?" Carmen asked when Amara had cried herself out. "Intubated. On a ventilator. Fighting." Amara pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Carmen, there's so much happening. The man who caused this, his brother, just warned us about a terrorist attack, and I'm stuck here and I can't do anything and—" "Stop," Carmen said firmly. "You're not stuck here. You're exactly where you need to be, with your daughter. The FBI has thousands of agents who can deal with the terrorist threat. Zara only has one mother. I should be helping. It's my case, my investigation that exposed them. And you'll help by testifying when it's time. But right now your job is to be Zara's mom. Everything else is secondary." Carmen had always been the practical one, the voice of reason when Amara's instinct was to charge forward, regardless of personal cost. She was older by 3 years, a hospital administrator in Miami, widowed young and fiercely independent. If anyone understood fighting through impossible situations, it was Carmen. "Take me to see my niece," Carmen said. "I've been waiting 7 months to meet her. The fact that she decided to make an early entrance doesn't change that." They returned to the NICU together. Judge Frost smiled when she saw Carmen immediately seating her chair. "You must be the sister. Amara's been waiting for you." Carmen approached Zara's isolette, slowly taking in every wire and tube and monitor. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "She looks just like you did. I've seen the pictures Grandma kept. Same nose, same chin. She's beautiful, Amara. Absolutely perfect." "She's 3 pounds," Amara said. 3 pounds and 10 weeks early and on a ventilator because a racist asshole kicked me. She's a survivor, Carmen corrected, just like her mother. Maria appeared with an update on Zara's latest blood gas results. Her oxygen levels are good. CO2 is a little elevated, but nothing concerning. Dr. Chen is pleased with how she's tolerating the ventilator. When can she come off it? Amara asked. We'll start trying to wean her in a few days if she continues to improve, but it's a gradual process. We can't rush it. The next few hours passed in a blur. Carmen insisted on getting Amara real food from a restaurant near the hospital, refusing to let her survive on cafeteria meals and vending machine snacks. Judge Frost finally left with promises to return tomorrow and bring clothes that actually fit. Agent Mitchell's shift ended and was replaced by Agent Park, who positioned himself just outside the NICU entrance. Hospital security had implemented additional protocols badge checks for all staff limited visitor access cameras, monitoring every entrance and exit. Amara pumped again, producing slightly more milk this time. The lactation consultant came by to check her technique and offer encouragement. Every 3 hours, like clockwork. Her phone alarm became the rhythm of her new life. At midnight, Dr. Chen did rounds again. Zara's vitals remained stable. No bradycardia episodes, no oxygen desaturations, just steady mechanical breathing and a tiny body fighting to grow stronger. Get some real sleep, Dr. Chen ordered Amara. In an actual bed. Hospital policy says we can't let you stay in the NICU overnight unless there's a medical emergency. But she's stable. I promise if anything changes, we'll call you immediately. Room 437 has been set aside for you. It's right above the NICU. You can be here in 2 minutes if needed. Carmen took Amara's arm. Come on, you're dead on your feet. Let's get you horizontal for a few hours. Room 437 was a standard hospital room, clearly intended for postpartum mothers. The bed looked impossibly comfortable after hours in a recliner. Carmen helped Amara change into the clothes Judge Frost had brought, settled her into bed, and curled up in the visitor's chair with a blanket. I'm scared, Amara admitted into the darkness. I know, Carmen said, but fear doesn't mean failure. It just means you love her. What if she doesn't make it? What if I went through 8 months of hell with the Brotherhood and gave birth on an airplane and she still doesn't make it? Then we'll grieve and we'll survive, because that's what our family does, Carmen said quietly. But Amara, I don't think that's how this story ends. I think Zara is going to fight her way through this. And 20 years from now, you'll tell her about being born at 30,000 feet, and she'll roll her eyes the way teenagers do, but she'll know she comes from strength. Amara wanted to believe it, tried to hold on to that vision of a future where Zara was alive and healthy and rolling her eyes at her mother's stories. She was drifting toward sleep when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow changes everything. Tell your FBI friends to look beyond the courthouse. The real target is closer than they think. She was instantly awake, showing the message to Carmen. That's not Derek's number, Carmen said, checking the earlier texts. No, Amara agreed. She forwarded it to Reed and Park, her hands shaking. It's someone else from the Brotherhood, someone who knows where I am. Agent Park was at her door within minutes. We're increasing security. Mitchell is on her way back. Nobody knows which room you're in except hospital staff, and they've all been vetted. The text says the real target is closer than we think, Amara said. What if they're not planning to attack the courthouse? What if that's misdirection? What else would they target? Park asked. And then Amara knew with absolute certainty what the Brotherhood was planning. Me, she said, and Zara. We're the real target. The courthouse attack is to draw resources away from the hospital. They're coming here. Park's face went pale. He was already on his phone barking orders to someone on the other end. Lock down the hospital. Every entrance. Nobody in or out without FBI clearance. Get Mitchell back here now and call in every available agent within 50 miles. Carmen grabbed Amara's arm. We need to get Zara out of here. Move her to another hospital. She's on a ventilator, Amara said, her mind racing through possibilities and discarding them just as quickly. She's too unstable to transport. Moving her could kill her faster than any attack. Then we stay and we fight, Carmen said, with a fierceness that reminded Amara why their grandmother had named her after a warrior saint. Reed called back within 30 seconds. "How certain are you about this?" "I've spent 8 months learning how these people think," Amara said. "The courthouse is too obvious, too well protected, but a hospital soft target, maximum emotional impact. They take out the agent who infiltrated them and her newborn daughter. They send a message to every other law enforcement officer considering going undercover." "Jesus Christ," Reed breathed. "Okay, I'm rerouting half the courthouse detail to Grady Memorial. ETA 20 minutes. But Amara, if they're already in position, 20 minutes might be too long." "Then we buy time," Amara said. She turned to Park. "How many agents do we have in the building right now?" "Just me and Mitchell when she gets back. Hospital security has maybe a dozen guards total for the entire facility." "Not enough," Amara said. "Not nearly enough if they're coming in force." Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Tick-tock, Agent Williams. The sins of the mother visited upon the daughter. How very biblical." Carmen read the message over her shoulder and went rigid with fury. "These sick bastards are threatening a newborn baby." "They're threatening the idea of me," Amara corrected, forcing herself to think clinically. "I'm the black woman who infiltrated their organization, who pretended to be one of them who's going to put their leadership in prison. Killing me proves they can't be fooled. Killing Zara erases my future, my legacy. It's symbolic." "It's evil," Carmen spat. "It's both," Amara said. She was already moving, pulling on clothes, checking her service weapon that Mitchell had retrieved from airline security. "Park, I need you to evacuate every baby from the NICU except Zara. Get them to another floor somewhere defendable." "We can't evacuate without medical staff and equipment," Park protested. "Some of those babies are as critical as your daughter." "Then evacuate the ones who can be moved safely. The Brotherhood won't target other babies. They want us. Make the NICU as empty as possible so there's less collateral damage when they come." Park made the call to Dr. Chen, explaining the situation in terse sentences. Within minutes, the NICU erupted into controlled chaos as nurses and doctors began the process of identifying which babies were stable enough for emergency transport. Maria appeared at the door to room 437, her face drawn. "Dr. Chen says Zara can't be moved. Her vent settings are too precise. Even a small disruption in oxygen delivery could cause brain damage, or worse." "I know," Amara said. "That's why we're making our stand here." Mitchell arrived breathing hard from running. "Backup is 15 minutes out. Hospital security is locking down. But Agent Williams, this facility has dozens of entrances. Service corridors, loading docks, connecting tunnels to other buildings. There's no way we can cover them all." "We don't need to cover them all," Amara said. "We just need to cover the route to the NICU. They know where Zara is. They'll come straight here." Carmen checked the window, looking down at the parking lot 4 floors below. "There's a white van that's been circling. 3rd time passed in the last 10 minutes. Amara moved to the window, and her blood went cold. The van had Patriot Brotherhood symbols barely visible under a hasty paint job. "They're doing reconnaissance, figuring out the best entry point." Her phone rang. Reed. "We've intercepted radio chatter," he said without preamble. "At least 6 hostiles heading to Grady Memorial. They're armed with automatic weapons, and they have inside knowledge of the hospital layout." "Inside knowledge," Amara repeated. "Someone who works here is helping them. Or worked here. We're running background checks on all staff, but it's going to take time we don't have." A code alert sounded over the hospital intercom. "Code Silver, this is not a drill. Code Silver in effect, hospital-wide. All staff initiate lockdown procedures." Code Silver, active shooter protocol. "They're here," Mitchell said, weapon drawn. "Park, you stay with Agent Williams and her sister. I'll coordinate with hospital security in the lobby." "Negative," Amara said. "Carmen, you're going with Mitchell. Get somewhere safe, somewhere away from the NICU." "Like hell I am," Carmen said. "You think I flew across 3 states to hide in a closet while my sister and niece are in danger? Not happening." "Carmen, no. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. End of discussion." There was no time to argue. Amara could hear shouting from somewhere below them, then 3 gunshots in rapid succession, screams. More gunshots. Park's radio crackled. "This is hospital security. We have multiple armed intruders entering through the loading dock. Officers down. Repeat, officers down." "Fourth floor NICU is their target," Park responded. "All available units converge on our position." "Negative," came the reply. "We're pinned down on the first floor. You're on your own up there." Mitchell swore viciously. "How long until FBI backup?" 10 minutes, Park said, checking his watch. 10 minutes. It might as well have been 10 hours. Amara made a decision. "Carmen Maria, get into the NICU with Zara. Lock the doors, barricade them with whatever you can find. Don't open them for anyone except me, Park, or Mitchell. If someone tries to force entry, you call 911 and you hide." "What are you going to do?" Maria asked. "Buy you time," Amara said. She turned to Park and Mitchell. "We set up a choke point in the hallway leading to the NICU. Force them to come through us to get to the babies." 3 against 6, Mitchell said. "Bad odds." "Better than 0 against 6, Amara countered. They moved quickly using supply carts and gurneys to create a makeshift barricade across the corridor. Not enough to stop determined attackers, but enough to slow them down, give the defenders some cover. Amara checked her weapon. Glock 19, 15 rounds in the magazine, plus 1 in the chamber. She had 2 spare magazines in her jacket pocket. 46 rounds total. She'd have to make every shot count. The elevator dinged at the end of the hallway. "Here we go," Park muttered, taking position behind the barricade. The elevator doors opened. 2 men emerged, both carrying AR-15-style rifles, both wearing body armor with Patriot Brotherhood patches. They saw the barricade and immediately took cover. "FBI!" Mitchell shouted. "Drop your weapons!" The response was a burst of automatic fire that tore chunks out of the wall above their heads. Amara returned fire, 2 quick shots that caught one attacker in the shoulder. He went down, but his partner dragged him back into cover. 1 wounded, Park reported. 5 more unaccounted for. A door slammed open behind them, the stairwell. Amara spun to see another attacker emerging, weapon raised. She fired 3 times. Center mass, just like training. The man dropped. 2 down, she said. 4 to go. But more were coming. She could hear boots on the stairs, multiple sets moving fast. They'd split their forces, some through the elevator, some through the stairs. Classic pincer movement. Mitchell threw a supply cart across the stairwell entrance, buying them seconds. "We can't hold both positions. We need to fall back to the NICU entrance." "If we fall back, they get behind us," Amara said. "We'll be trapped." "We're already trapped," Park said. He fired twice at shadows moving in the stairwell. "Falling back at least gives us a defensive position with only one approach." He was right. Amara hated it, but he was right. "Go," she said. "I'll cover." They retreated down the corridor, moving backward with weapons trained on both the elevator and the stairwell. Amara fired twice more as an attacker tried to rush their position, driving him back. They reached the NICU entrance. The heavy security doors were designed to keep unauthorized people out, with electronic locks and reinforced frames. Maria and Carmen had pushed equipment against them from the inside, creating additional barriers. "We make our stand here," Mitchell said. "No one gets through." The attackers had regrouped. Amara could see them at the end of the hallway, 4 men in tactical gear conferring, planning their next move. Her phone buzzed. The same unknown number. "You can't win, Agent Williams. Surrender and we'll let the other babies live. Keep fighting and everyone dies." "They're bluffing," Park said, reading the message over her shoulder. "They want you to give up." "Maybe," Amara said. "Or maybe they've rigged explosives. These people are fanatics. They don't think like rational actors." Carmen's voice came through the NICU intercom. "Amara, we can hear gunfire. What's happening?" "Stay where you are," Amara ordered. "Keep Zara safe. That's all that matters." One of the attackers stepped into the hallway, hands raised. "Agent Williams, my name is Thomas Becker. I'm the regional commander of the Patriot Brotherhood. I'm authorized to negotiate." "Nothing to negotiate," Mitchell shouted back. "Drop your weapons and surrender." "Can't do that," Becker said. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "See, we have a problem. You infiltrated our organization. You gathered evidence that's going to put our leadership in prison for decades. We can't allow that." "Too late," Amara called back. "Evidence is already submitted. Killing me won't change anything." "Maybe not," Becker agreed. "But it sends a message. No one betrays the Brotherhood. No one infiltrates us and walks away. Especially not some affirmative action hire who thinks a badge makes her untouchable." The racial slur was meant to provoke her. Amara refused to take the bait. "Your message will be that you murdered a federal agent and her newborn child. Every law enforcement agency in the country will hunt you down. You'll never be safe again." "Worth it," Becker said. "Some things matter more than personal safety, like racial purity, like protecting our homeland from people like you." A gunshot rang out impossibly close. Amara felt the bullet pass within inches of her head. One of the other attackers had flanked them, coming through a maintenance corridor she hadn't even known existed. Park returned fire, forcing the attacker back, but now they were taking fire from two directions. The situation was deteriorating fast. "FBI!" A new voice echoed from the stairwell. "Drop your weapons, Reed." Backup had arrived. What happened next was chaos. Gunfire from multiple directions shouted commands, the attackers caught between the NICU defenders and the FBI team that had just arrived. Becker tried to run, and Mitchell brought him down with 2 shots to the legs. Another attacker surrendered immediately. The remaining 2 tried to fight their way out and were killed in the crossfire. And then suddenly it was over. The hallway filled with FBI agents sweeping through to secure the area. Paramedics rushed in to treat the wounded, both attackers and the hospital security guards who'd been shot on the first floor. Reed appeared through the smoke, his weapon still drawn, his face grim. "Everyone okay?" he asked. "We're alive," Amara said. Her ears were ringing from the gunfire, her hands shaking from adrenaline crash. "Carmen and Zara?" She turned to the NICU doors and pounded on them. "Carmen, it's over. Open up." The locks disengaged. The doors swung open. Carmen stood there pale and shaking, holding what looked like a scalpel, like a weapon. Behind her, Maria was bent over Zara's isolette, adjusting settings. "Is she okay?" Amara pushed past her sister, needing to see with her own eyes. "She's fine," Maria said, but her voice shook. The stress, the noise, her heart rate spiked, but she's coming back down. "She's okay." Amara looked at the monitors. Heart rate still elevated but dropping. Oxygen saturation stable. The ventilator continued its rhythmic work, breathing for her daughter, while chaos raged outside. "You did it," Carmen said, wrapping her arms around Amara from behind. "You protected her. You protected all of them." Dr. Chen appeared looking harried. "We need to check every baby. The evacuation, the gunfire, the stress. I need to make sure no one decompensated during all this." The next hour was a blur of statements and debriefings and medical assessments. The babies who'd been evacuated were brought back to the NICU one by one, each carefully examined before being returned to their isolettes. Miraculously, none had suffered significant setbacks. Becker and the surviving attacker were taken into custody. The 2 dead attackers were identified as known Brotherhood members with extensive criminal records. The hospital went from code silver to code black to code green as the situation was contained and then resolved. Reed pulled Amara aside once the immediate chaos had died down. "Marcus Thornton is singing like a canary, giving us everything. Names, locations, planned operations. The Brotherhood is done. This was their last gasp." "They almost succeeded," Amara said quietly. "But they didn't, because you saw it coming, and you were ready." Reed paused. "You should know Derek Thornton is asking to see you." "Why?" "He says he has information about who gave the Brotherhood your location. Someone in the hospital tipped them off about which room you were in, which NICU pod Zara was assigned to." Amara felt a chill. "Someone who works here betrayed us. We're investigating. But Derek claims he knows who, says he'll only tell you directly." "When?" "Tomorrow, after he's arraigned. If you're up for it." Amara looked through the window into the NICU where Zara continued fighting, oblivious to the violence that had erupted around her. "I'll be there." Carmen insisted Amara eat something, practically force-feeding her a sandwich from the cafeteria. Judge Frost appeared with fresh clothes and genuine concern, staying for an hour before quietly departing. Sandra called to check in, offering to come back if needed. By midnight, the hospital had returned to something resembling normalcy. Extra security remained posted throughout the building, FBI agents stationed at every entrance, but the immediate threat had passed. Amara sat beside Zara's isolette, watching her daughter breathe with mechanical assistance, and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. Terror, rage, grief for what should have been a joyful time and instead had become a nightmare. Love so fierce, it physically hurt. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Zara. "I'm so sorry you were born into this, that my choices put you in danger before you even took your first breath." Maria, overhearing, shook her head. "Your choices saved lives. Your investigation put criminals in prison. Your daughter will grow up knowing her mother is a hero." "Heroes don't get their babies threatened by terrorists," Amara said bitterly. "Heroes do what's necessary, even when it costs them everything," Maria corrected. "That's literally the definition." Dr. Chen appeared with Zara's latest test results. "Blood gases are improving. If this continues, we might be able to start weaning her off the ventilator in 48 hours. "Really?" Amara felt hope flicker to life. "Really, she's a fighter agent Williams, just like her mother." Carmen had fallen asleep in the recliner, exhausted from travel and stress and the adrenaline crash. Amara covered her with a blanket, grateful beyond words that her sister had come, that she hadn't been alone through any of this. Her phone buzzed, a text from Derek Thornton's lawyer. "My client insists the information he has is time-sensitive. He needs to speak with you tonight, not tomorrow. Says lives depend on it." Amara forwarded the message to Reed with a question mark. He called immediately. "Could be a manipulation tactic. He's facing serious time, maybe thinks he can negotiate by playing up his cooperation." "Or it's legitimate, and someone else is in danger," Amara said. "Your call. If you want to go to the detention center tonight, I'll arrange it. But you should rest." Amara looked at Zara, stable for now, looked at Carmen sleeping peacefully, looked at the FBI agents still standing guard. "Arrange it," she said. "But I'm not leaving the hospital. If Derek wants to talk to me, he does it via video conference." 20 minutes later, she was sitting in a hospital conference room with a laptop showing Derek Thornton's face. He looked haggard, older than his 52 years, with dark circles under his eyes and the pallor of someone who hasn't slept. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said. "You have 5 minutes," Amara replied coldly. "Start talking." "The person who gave the Brotherhood your location. It was Dr. Reeves." Amara felt the floor drop out from under her. "The OB who examined me?" "That's impossible. He's worked at Grady for 20 years. "His son is in the Brotherhood," Derek said. "Has been for 5 years. Dr. Reeves isn't a member himself, but he's sympathetic to the cause. When you were brought to the hospital, he recognized your name from news coverage of the Patriot Brotherhood investigation. He told his son. His son told Becker." "You're lying," Amara said. But even as she spoke, she remembered how thorough Dr. Reeves had been, how he'd insisted on examining her personally, how he'd known exactly which room she was assigned to. "I'm not lying," Derek said. "And Agent Williams, there's more. Dr. Reeves has access to the NICU. He knows exactly where your daughter is. He could walk in there right now and no one would question it." Amara was already moving, shouting for Reed for Park for anyone. "We need to lock down the NICU again. Now, Dr. Reeves is compromised." But even as agents scrambled to respond, her phone rang. Maria. "Amara, Dr. Reeves just came in. He says he needs to examine Zara because of her exposure to the gunfire stress. But something feels wrong. He's acting strange." "Don't let him touch her," Amara said, already running toward the elevator. "Don't let him anywhere near her. We're coming." She burst into the NICU with Park and Mitchell flanking her, weapons drawn. Dr. Reeves stood beside Zara's isolette, one hand reaching for the ventilator controls. "Step away from the baby," Amara ordered, her weapon trained on him. Dr. Reeves froze. His face cycled through emotions: surprise, fear, resignation. "You don't understand. I'm trying to help her." "By tampering with her ventilator," Mitchell said. "Hands where we can see them. Now." "My son," Dr. Reeves said, his voice breaking. "They have my son. Becker called me an hour ago. Said if I didn't finish what his team started, they'd kill him. Please, I don't want to hurt anyone, but he's my son." "Where is he?" Reed demanded, entering behind them. "I don't know. They took him this morning, before the hospital attack. Insurance Becker called it, making sure I'd cooperate if their assault failed." Amara kept her weapon steady, despite the rage burning through her. This man, this doctor who'd examined her, who'd promised to help her daughter, had betrayed them all because of his son's choices. "We'll find your son," Reed said, "but you're under arrest. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder of a federal agent's child, aiding and abetting domestic terrorism." Hospital security appeared to escort Dr. Reeves away. He didn't resist, just looked at Amara with desperate eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But wouldn't you do anything to save your daughter?" Amara didn't answer, because the truth was, she would. She absolutely would. And that understanding, that terrible empathy for a man who'd almost killed Zara, made everything so much more complicated. After Dr. Reeves was taken away, Dr. Chen personally examined Zara, checking every setting, every connection, every medication. "He didn't tamper with anything," she concluded. "Whatever he was planning, you stopped him before he could act." "This time," Amara said, "but how many others are out there? How many people connected to the Brotherhood are in positions where they could hurt us? We'll find them," Reed promised. "Every single one." But promises felt hollow when Amara looked at her daughter, 3 pounds of vulnerability connected to machines dependent on people whose loyalties she couldn't guarantee. Carmen woke and, learning what had happened, pulled Amara into another fierce hug. "It's over now. It has to be over." "I want to believe that," Amara said. "But I keep waiting for the next threat, the next attack." "Then we stay vigilant," Carmen said simply. "We protect her with everything we have, and eventually the threats will fade and she'll just be a little girl who doesn't remember any of this." Amara hoped her sister was right, hoped that someday the fear would fade, that she could watch Zara grow without constantly looking over her shoulder. But tonight, she just sat beside her daughter's isolette and kept watch, refusing to sleep, refusing to let her guard down a mother and an agent and a warrior all at once. Dawn broke over Atlanta with pale light filtering through the NICU windows, casting long shadows across Zara's isolette. Amara hadn't slept. Every footstep in the hallway made her hand move toward her weapon. Every alarm from the monitor sent her heart racing. Carmen had tried to convince her to rest, but rest felt like weakness, like letting her guard down when her daughter's life still hung in the balance. Dr. Chen arrived at 6 a.m. for morning rounds, her expression grave. "Agent Williams, we need to talk about Zara's ventilator settings." Amara's stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Actually, she's doing remarkably well. Her oxygen requirements have decreased overnight. Her blood gases are stable. I think we can start the weaning process today." Relief flooded through Amara so intensely she had to sit down. "You mean she might come off the ventilator?" "Not immediately. Weaning is gradual, especially with preemies. We'll reduce the ventilator support incrementally and see how she handles the increased work of breathing on her own. But yes, if she continues improving at this rate, she could be extubated within 72 hours. Carmen, who'd been listening from the recliner, let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "She's getting stronger." "She's a fighter," Dr. Chen agreed, "just like her mother." Maria began the weaning process, carefully adjusting the ventilator settings while monitoring Zara's response. The baby's oxygen saturation remained stable. Her heart rate barely changed. She was tolerating the reduced support beautifully. "Talk to her," Maria encouraged. "Let her hear your voice. It helps." Amara placed her hands through the isolette portholes, cupping Zara's tiny head. "Hey, baby girl, you're doing so good, so strong. Keep fighting, okay? Just keep fighting, and soon we can hold you without all these wires. Soon you can breathe on your own." Her phone buzzed. "Reed. We found Dr. Reeves's son. He's alive, being held in a warehouse in Marietta. SWAT is moving in now. Is he cooperating?" The son, he's terrified, saying he tried to leave the Brotherhood 6 months ago but they wouldn't let him. Threatened his family if he talked. Dr. Reeves was trying to protect him by cooperating. Doesn't excuse what he did, Amara said coldly. No, it doesn't, but it explains it. And Agent Williams, there's something else. We've been analyzing the communications we intercepted. The Brotherhood's leadership knew about your pregnancy before you went undercover. They've been planning this attack since before Zara was even born. The words hit Amara like a physical blow. That's impossible. I didn't know I was pregnant until I was already embedded with them. They had someone inside the FBI, Reed said quietly. Someone who accessed your medical records when you went to the bureau doctor for your initial prenatal appointment. They've known for 8 months. Amara felt sick. Who? We're still investigating. But Agent Williams, this means everything that happened. Derek Thornton being on that specific flight, him targeting you, specifically the hospital attack. None of it was opportunistic. It was all planned. They wanted to kill my baby before she was even born, Amara said, and her voice sounded distant to her own ears. They wanted to destroy you, Reed corrected. Taking away your child was how they planned to do it. But they failed. You're both alive. They're in custody. You won. Had she won? Amara looked at Zara, 3 pounds, and fighting for every breath. Born 10 weeks early because a man kicked her pregnant belly. Connected to machines because her lungs weren't ready for the world. A target before she even existed. I need you to come to the FBI field office, Reed said. We're coordinating the final sweep of Brotherhood members. Your testimony and identification would be invaluable. I can't leave Zara. Carmen can stay with her. You'd only be gone a few hours. And Agent Williams, this is important. We have a chance to dismantle the entire organization. Everyone you identified during your undercover operation, everyone connected to the attacks. But we need you. Amara looked at her sister, who'd overheard the conversation. Carmen nodded slowly. Go. I'll watch over her. Nothing's getting near this baby while I'm breathing. Mitchell and Park will stay here, Reed added. Full security detail. Zara will be safe. Against every instinct, Amara agreed. She kissed Zara's tiny hand through the isolette porthole, whispered promises to return soon, and let Reed arrange transportation to the FBI field office. The building was a fortress of concrete and glass in downtown Atlanta. Amara had been here before during training exercises and interagency collaborations, but today it felt different. Today she was walking in as a victim and a witness and an agent who'd nearly lost everything. Reed met her in the lobby, his expression tight. Before we go upstairs, there's someone who wants to see you. Derek Thornton requested a meeting. Why would I agree to that? Because he's prepared to give us everything. Names, locations, financial records, communication channels, the entire Brotherhood structure. But he'll only do it if he can apologize to you first. I don't want his apology. I know. But we want his cooperation. 5 minutes, Agent Williams. Give him 5 minutes, and he gives us the keys to dismantling a terrorist organization. They brought her to an interrogation room where Derek sat in orange prison scrubs, wrists shackled to the table. He looked broken shoulders, hunched eyes red from crying. Agent Williams, he said when she entered. Thank you for coming. Amara didn't sit. You have 5 minutes. Talk. I'm sorry, Derek said immediately. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did to you or your daughter, but I need you to know I never wanted to hurt a baby. I never wanted any of this. But you did it anyway, Amara said flatly. You kicked a pregnant woman. You joined a terrorist organization. You made choices. I made terrible choices, Derek agreed. After Emma died, I was drowning. The grief, the guilt, the anger. My wife left and I had no one. The Brotherhood gave me purpose. They said my pain mattered. They said I wasn't alone. So you decided to inflict that pain on others. Derek flinched. I didn't see it that way at the time. I was so consumed by my own suffering, I couldn't see anyone else's. But Agent Williams, when I saw your daughter born on that plane, when I saw how tiny and fragile she was, it was like seeing Emma again, and I realized what a monster I'd become. Realization doesn't equal redemption, Amara said. I know, but maybe cooperation does. I'm giving the FBI everything. Every member I know, every operation I heard about, every financial donor who funded our activities. I'm burning it all down. Why guilt? Guilt, and because I don't want another Emma, another Zara, another mother watching her baby struggle to breathe because of someone's hate. Amara studied him, this broken man who'd set so much darkness in motion. Your cooperation will be noted, but Derek, you're still going to prison. For a long time. I know, and I deserve it. He paused. How is she, Zara? Fighting, getting stronger every day. Derek's eyes filled with tears. Good. That's good. Tell her someday when she's old enough to understand. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her she helped save other children by surviving. Because if she'd died, I don't think I could have lived with myself enough to cooperate. Amara left the room without responding. Reed was waiting outside. Well, use him, Amara said. Get everything he knows. But I don't forgive him. I don't forgive any of them. The next 3 hours were a blur of debriefings and identifications. Amara went through photographs, confirming which individuals she'd encountered during her undercover operation. She provided detailed statements about conversations, meetings, plans she'd overheard. She corroborated evidence from wiretaps and surveillance. By noon, the FBI had executed simultaneous raids across 15 states, arresting 73 Patriot Brotherhood members. The organization's leadership, their financial backers, their weapons suppliers, all taken into custody in one coordinated sweep. You did it, Reed said when the operation concluded. 8 months of work just dismantled one of the largest domestic terrorism networks in the country. We did it, Amara corrected. Every agent who worked this case, every analyst who tracked their communications, every prosecutor building the case, it wasn't just me. But you were the one who went undercover while pregnant. You were the one who risked everything. Amara thought about Zara, 4 floors above them, in a NICU isolette. I risked more than I knew. Her phone rang. Carmen, and her voice was jubilant. Amara, you need to get back here. Dr. Chen is extubating Zara. She's doing so well they're taking the breathing tube out today instead of waiting. Amara was moving before Carmen finished speaking, running for the elevator, Reed shouting something behind her about arranging transport. But she couldn't wait. She burst onto the street and flagged down a taxi, showing her badge when the driver hesitated. Grady Memorial Hospital. Emergency. Go. The drive took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Amara's leg bounced with nervous energy, her hands clenched into fists. She'd missed so much already. Missed Zara's first hours because of the assault. Missed time because of security threats and FBI debriefings. She wasn't missing this. The taxi dropped her at the emergency entrance. She ran through the hospital badge out taking stairs because the elevator was too slow. Burst into the NICU to find Dr. Chen and Maria preparing equipment around Zara's isolette. Am I too late? Amara gasped. Perfect timing, Dr. Chen said with a smile. We were just about to start. Carmen moved aside, letting Amara take her place beside the isolette. She's been amazing. No bradycardia episodes, oxygen saturation, holding steady at 95% on minimal vent support. She's ready. Dr. Chen explained the procedure. We'll suction her airway, then deflate the cuff that's holding the tube in place and remove it in one smooth motion. She might cough or gag, which is normal. Then we'll put her on CPAP again and see how she does. What if she can't handle it? Amara asked. Then we reintubate, but I don't think that's going to happen. Your daughter is a fighter. They began. Maria suctioned Zara's airway while Dr. Chen carefully deflated the cuff. Amara held her breath as the doctor gently pulled the tube free. Zara's face contorted and she let out a cry, weak and raspy, but a cry nonetheless. Her own voice heard for the first time without mechanical intervention. That's it, Dr. Chen encouraged. Good girl. Keep breathing. They placed the CPAP mask over Zara's nose, securing it gently. The monitor showed her oxygen saturation dip slightly, then stabilize. Her chest rose and fell on its own irregular, at first then finding a rhythm. She's doing it, Maria said with satisfaction. She's breathing independently. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. Carmen was crying too, holding onto her sister's shoulder for support. Even Dr. Chen looked emotional, and she'd probably performed hundreds of extubations. "Can I hold her?" Amara asked. "Now that she doesn't have the ventilator." "Let's give her an hour to stabilize," Dr. Chen said. "But yes, kangaroo care will be excellent for her now." That hour was the longest of Amara's life. She watched the monitors obsessively counting every breath Zara took on her own. The baby had a few desaturations that corrected quickly, a couple of bradycardia episodes that resolved without intervention. But overall, she was breathing, on her own. Finally, Dr. Chen gave permission. They positioned Amara in the recliner, helped her remove her shirt so it would be skin-to-skin contact. Maria carefully lifted Zara from the isolette supporting her head, mindful of all the remaining wires and the CPAP mask, and then her daughter was in her arms. 3 pounds of warmth and life and possibility. Amara could feel every breath Zara took against her chest, could feel the rapid flutter of her heart, could feel her daughter's tiny hand curl around her finger. "Hi, baby girl," Amara whispered. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting so long to hold you like this." Zara's eyes opened, dark eyes that seemed to look directly at her. Newborns couldn't really see yet. Amara knew, but it felt like Zara was seeing her, really seeing her. "You're so strong," Amara continued. "Stronger than anyone could have expected. You survived when people tried to hurt you. You fought when your lungs weren't ready. You're a warrior just like your great-grandmother, just like your mama." Carmen took pictures, dozens of them capturing this moment. Judge Frost arrived and stood quietly in the corner witnessing. Sandra came by with a care package of nursing supplies and encouragement. And through it all, Zara breathed. Small, rapid breaths that her tiny lungs managed on their own, each one a victory, each one proof that hate hadn't won. Reed called with an update. "The mole in the FBI has been identified. Special Agent Christine Morrison. She was Derek Thornton's ex-girlfriend from 20 years ago. When he joined the Brotherhood, she gave them access to confidential information, including your medical records." "Is she in custody?" "Being arrested as we speak, along with everyone else connected to the conspiracy. It's over, Agent Williams, really over." Amara looked down at Zara, who'd fallen asleep against her chest, lulled by the sound of her mother's heartbeat. Good. The next few days established a new rhythm. Amara spent every moment in the NICU learning to read Zara's cues, understanding what each monitor reading meant, how to change impossibly tiny diapers, how to help with feeding attempts through the nasal gastric tube, since Zara was still too small to breastfeed directly. Carmen extended her stay, moving into room 437, with Amara creating a makeshift command center of laptops and baby books and takeout containers. Judge Frost visited daily, often sitting for hours just watching Zara sleep, sharing stories about her own children. Sandra taught Amara the intricacies of pumping and milk storage, helping her maintain supply even though Zara couldn't nurse yet. "This is temporary," Sandra promised. "One day she'll be strong enough to breastfeed, but every drop you provide now is building her immune system." On day 5, Zara graduated from CPAP to a simple nasal cannula, just a tiny bit of oxygen support. On day 7, she hit 4 pounds. On day 10, she took her first bottle, managing a whole milliliter before tiring out. The media had gotten hold of the story. FBI agent gives birth on plane after terrorist attack ran on every major news network. Amara declined all interview requests. This wasn't about publicity. This was about survival. Derek Thornton's arraignment happened without incident. He pled guilty to all charges, accepting a sentence of 25 years without parole in exchange for his cooperation. Marcus Thornton received immunity for his testimony and entered witness protection. Dr. Reeves got 15 years. Becker and the surviving hospital attackers got life sentences. The Patriot Brotherhood was officially designated a domestic terrorist organization. Their assets were frozen. Their leadership awaited trial. The network Amara had spent 8 months infiltrating was dismantled, but the real victory was happening in NICU Pod 3 Station 12. On day 14, Dr. Chen announced Zara no longer needed supplemental oxygen. On day 16, she successfully nursed for the first time, latching onto Amara's breast, with surprising strength. On day 21, 3 weeks after her dramatic entrance into the world, Zara's weight crossed 5 pounds. "At this rate, you'll be taking her home sooner than expected," Dr. Chen said during rounds. "She's exceeding every milestone." "Home," Amara repeated. She'd barely thought beyond the next day, the next feeding, the next monitor check. But home. A nursery that still needed finishing. A life that needed rebuilding. Carmen had already started making plans, coordinating with Amara's apartment complex to install security systems, vetting pediatricians in Miami, researching the best car seats for preemies. "You're coming home with us," Carmen said firmly. "Not negotiable. You and Zara are staying with me for at least 6 months. You need support, and I'm providing it." Amara didn't argue. The truth was, she couldn't imagine doing this alone. Not after everything. On day 28, exactly 4 weeks after Zara's birth, Dr. Chen gathered Amara and Carmen in the consultation room. "I have good news. Zara has met all her criteria for discharge. She's maintaining her temperature, feeding well, breathing independently, and gaining weight consistently. If she continues this trajectory for the next 48 hours, she can go home." Home. The word felt foreign and wonderful all at once. "What about follow-up care?" Amara asked. "She'll need regular appointments with a pediatrician experienced in preemies, developmental assessments at 3, 6, and 12 months, possible physical therapy if any delays emerge. But Agent Williams, your daughter is doing remarkably well. Better than we could have hoped, given the circumstances of her birth." That night, Amara held Zara during kangaroo care and talked to her about the future, about the apartment in Miami with the room they'd decorate together, about Carmen's house with the big yard where she could learn to walk, about the FBI cases Amara would work from home while Zara napped, about growing up strong and brave and kind. "You're going to be okay," Amara promised. "We both are." Judge Frost came by with a gift, a handmade quilt with squares representing strength, courage, justice, and love. "For when she's older," the judge said, "so she knows where she came from." Sandra brought a box of clothes, all sized for preemies, all donated from NICU families whose babies had grown and thrived. "Paying it forward," she explained. Reed visited with paperwork, finalizing Amara's medical leave and a letter of commendation for her work dismantling the Patriot Brotherhood. "Take all the time you need," he said. "The Bureau will be here when you're ready to return. If you're ready." Amara didn't know if she'd return to undercover work. Didn't know if she could ever again put herself in situations that might endanger her daughter. But that was a decision for another day. On day 30, exactly 1 month after being born at 30,000 feet, Zara was discharged from Grady Memorial Hospital. She weighed 5 pounds 14 ounces and could maintain her temperature, breathe independently, and feed from a bottle or breast. She was tiny, but mighty a survivor in every sense. They dressed her in a going-home outfit that swam on her small frame, secured her into a car seat specially designed for premature infants, signed discharge papers and received instructions and emergency numbers and encouragement. And then surrounded by Carmen and Judge Frost and Sandra and Maria and Dr. Chen and half the NICU staff who'd cared for Zara over the past month, they walked out of the hospital into the Atlanta sunshine. Agent Park drove them to the airport in an FBI vehicle. Mitchell had already secured their flight to Miami, arranging for them to board first and have extra assistance. The airline had donated first-class tickets, the same seats Amara had occupied when this all began. As the plane took off, Amara held Zara against her chest and looked out the window at Atlanta falling away below them. A month ago, she'd been fighting for her daughter's life at this altitude. Now she was bringing her home. "Look at you," Carmen said softly. "Both of you. Survivors." Zara stirred, but didn't wait content in her mother's arms, breathing easily, heart beating strong. Amara thought about Derek Thornton in prison paying for his choices, about the Patriot Brotherhood dismantled and scattered, about Dr. Reeves and his son and the terrible compromises people made, about hate and love and the thin line between protecting and destroying. But mostly she thought about the tiny human in her arms, born into violence, but surviving with grace. A daughter who would grow up knowing her mother had fought for justice even when it cost everything. Who would learn that strength came in many forms, the strength to go undercover for 8 months, yes, but also the strength to pump every 3 hours, to watch monitors without panicking, to ask for help when needed. "You know what we're naming her middle name?" Amara said to Carmen suddenly. "I thought her middle name was Faith." "I'm changing it, Zara Hope Williams, because that's what she is." Hope that survived despite everything designed to crush it. The flight attendant, not Jessica, but a different woman, older and kind, stopped by to check on them. "Your daughter is beautiful," she said. "Thank you," Amara replied. "She's a fighter." "Must run in the family," the attendant said with a knowing smile. As they approached, Miami descended through clouds toward home. Amara looked at her daughter and made a promise. "You're going to grow up in a world that's better than the one you were born into, because people like you exist. Because hate didn't win. Because love fought back and survived." Zara's hand curled around Amara's finger, a grip that was stronger every day, and in that moment, Amara knew with absolute certainty that everything she'd endured had been worth it. They'd won. Not just the case against the Patriot Brotherhood, though that mattered. Not just surviving the assault and the hospital attack and the countless dangers, though that mattered too. They'd won because hate had tried to destroy them and failed, because Zara was alive and breathing and growing stronger, because justice had prevailed and a terrorist organization was dismantled, because one mother's refusal to surrender had protected not just her own daughter, but countless other children who would never know the danger they'd been saved from. The plane touched down in Miami to sunshine and palm trees and Carmen's promised support system. Amara's apartment was waiting. The FBI's work would continue. Zara would grow and thrive and someday understand the story of her birth. But today, right now, they were simply a mother and daughter coming home after the longest month of their lives, ready to begin again together, unbroken by the hate that had tried to destroy them. Because in the end, that was the real victory, not just surviving, but choosing hope, despite every reason to surrender to fear, choosing to build a future, despite the violence of the past, choosing to believe that love was stronger than hate and that justice would prevail. And as Amara carried her daughter off the plane and into the rest of their lives, she knew with absolute certainty that Zara Hope Williams would grow up knowing she was born at 30,000 feet to a mother who never stopped fighting, and that legacy of strength would carry her through whatever challenges lay ahead.